Chapter 2021. It seems that it's not enough to just rely on secluded cultivation. Lin Sun pondered for a long time and finally gave up the idea of continuing to try. He stood up and walked out of the cave residence. On this day, there was only 1 month left before the opening of the Tao Discussion Grand Meeting. Lin Sun walked out of secluded cultivation. 5 months of secluded cultivation had caused his cultivation to undergo many transformations. His cultivation had broken through to the peak late-stage Saint King realm, and he could fight against 5 quasi-emperor realm experts. He had condensed the platinum Tao body, mastered the innate divine ability, Thorn of Sharpness, and attained the perfection of the 5-taste realm of the Great Way Golden Court scripture, and possessed 5 Great Way doppelgangers. With the help of the Void Great Way plate, his Tao domain had been further improved, and he was only 1 step away from reaching the extreme perfection. All kinds of transformations and gains had caused Lin Sun's combat strength to undergo earth-shaking changes, and he was completely different from 5 months ago. Young Master, these are some news and information about the Tao Discussion Grand Meeting. There was a trace of joy in Jin Tian Xuanyue's clear eyes, and she handed a jade slip to Lin Sun with both hands. After not seeing him for 5 months, she keenly sensed that her young master's aura had become more and more unfathomable. Lin Sun sat under a pine tree, took the jade slip, and casually flipped through it. Wang Yichen, the first person of the Azure Province, Ming Qiang, the first person of the Star Province, Su Qingjian, each and every one of these dazzling names was like a legend, and each of them had great luck, great boldness, and a shocking foundation. However, Lin Sun's heart was calm. Ever since he possessed the combat strength to kill quasi-emperors across realms, there were very few people in the same generation that could enter his eyes. Jin Tian Xuanyue brewed tea with her bare hands, and occasionally glanced at Lin Sun with a smile that even she herself was unaware of. Soon, Lin Sun noticed a name, the first person of the Copper Province, Xian Jiuyin. The image of a handsome young man in linen clothes with a cheeky smile appeared in his mind. Back then, when he was crossing the starry sky on the boat, this young man in linen clothes who called himself Little Jiu liked to lie on the wall and watch the fun. Lin Sun did not expect that this guy would become the first person of the Tao Discussion selection in the Copper Province. Looking at the information on the jade slip, Xian Jiuyin was a descendant of the ancient emperor clan, the Xian clan. He grasped the Taoist domain Book of Profundity. His battle strength was so strong that no one in the Bronze Province Saint King realm could match him. The Book of Profundity, Lin Sun couldn't help but be curious. How miraculous would such a Tao realm be? Soon, Lin Sun saw another familiar name, Ling Kezi. This was a charmingly naive young monk from the ancient southern temple, which was also known as the Little Western Paradise. Lin Sun clearly remembered that when Ling Kezi saw him in Kunlun ruins, he seemed especially timid and fearful, treating him like a scourge. This left a deep impression on Lin Sun. Lin Sun didn't expect that this seemingly timid monk would be the first in the Tao Discussion selection of Demon Province. The Devil Province was like the territory of the Devil World. It was the world of devil cultivators, and it was also seen as the world of great danger in the primordial world. Such a cowardly Ling Kezi had actually leaped up to become the #1 expert in this state, and this was truly inconceivable. According to the records, Ling Kezi possessed the talent of pure Buddha heart and mastered the Tao realm Sangarama Bodhi, which had the power to subdue people without fighting. Interesting. Lin Sun smiled and continued to read the jade slip. After a while, he finished reading all the information in the jade slip. "Child, have you ever heard of Kong Zhao?" Jin Tian Xuanyue suddenly asked. "Who is he?" Lin Sun was stunned. Immediately, Jin Tian Xuanyue introduced Kong Zhao's identity to Lin Sun, such as talent of untainted land, best of Kong family, 5th on the Holy King list, and peerless genius. Lin Sun was surprised after hearing this. When he heard that Kong Zhao threatened to make all the top experts in all provinces bow their heads before the Tao discussion conference, Lin Sun immediately laughed. The descendants of the imperial Kong family were all more arrogant than the other. Of course, this was Lin Sun's own opinion. To other cultivators, Kong Zhao was definitely a terrifying existence that could make anyone fear him, and he was also qualified to make such a threat. Child, you once killed Kong Yu and the others with the identity of Yu Xian. Although you're not worried that Kong Zhao will see through your identity, you should be careful if you meet him at the Tao discussion conference. Jintian Xianyue warned. Lin Sun made a sound of acknowledgement and did not comment further. Back in the Kunlun ruins, he had killed countless experts from the 6 Dao courts and the 10 war clans. With his current combat strength, it was impossible for him to fear anyone of the same generation. After chatting for a while, Heng Xiao hurried over. It's good that you've come out of seclusion. I've just received news that Guan Su, the sect master of the Great Void Dao sect, will lead the top 10 of the Tao discussion conference to the Central Plains Prefecture tomorrow morning. Heng Xiao said. Lin Sun and Jintian Xianyue looked at each other and nodded in agreement. One of them was ranked first in the Tao discussion conference, while the other was ranked 7th. Both of them were qualified to participate in the Tao discussion conference. If that's the case, let's depart immediately. On that day, Heng Xiao left with Lin Sun and Jintian Xianyue and headed to the Great Void Dao Mountain. The Great Void Dao sect. When Lin Sun and Jintian Xianyue arrived in a grand hall, they saw Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Su Muhan, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, Leng Xiujia, Ting Yichen, Gui Shanxing, and the others had already arrived. This guy's aura has become more and more obscure. It seems like his cultivation has improved again during this period of time. When they saw Lin Sun and Jintian Xianyue, many people in the hall looked over. Especially when they noticed Lin Sun's change, many people's eyes narrowed. At the same time, Lin Sun also noticed that whether it was Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, or the others, all of them had changed significantly during these 5 months. Clearly, he was not the only one who had made a breakthrough during this period of time. It was the same for Lu Dubu and the others. Everyone is here now. Tomorrow morning, I will bring all of you to the Central Earth Dao State to participate in the Dao Discussion Festival organized by the 6 major Dao courts. The figure of the Great Void Dao sect's headmaster, Guan Su, appeared in the hall. His words caused the atmosphere to fall silent. Remember, no matter which sect you come from or what your identity is, once you arrive at the Central Earth Dao State, you will only have one identity, the cultivators of the Cloud State. Guan Su said. Later, I will pass you all the information I have learned about the Dao Discussion Festival. You can take advantage of tonight to have some exchanges. After reminding Lin Sun and the others about some trivial matters, Guan Su gave each of them a jade scroll. The information recorded in the jade scroll was extremely shocking. It was different from what the outside world had heard. It listed in detail the names of the cultivators from the 6 major Dao courts, the 10 major battle clans, and other giants who would participate in the Dao Discussion Festival. At the same time, there was also information about the peerless geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky. These people would also participate in the Dao Discussion Festival. In the hall, only Lin Sun and the others were left. They were all studying the contents of the Jade Scrolls. The first thing Lin Sun saw was a list of the most dazzling cultivators. Shang Xian, a core disciple of the Panwu Dao Court, ranked 10th on the All Heavens King Sage ranking, a descendant of the primordial Emperor Shang clan. He is extremely talented and has an extraordinary foundation. He has mastered the Dao realm, dominator of the 8 Desolate. The ancestor of the primordial Emperor Shang clan was the same as the ancestors of the Kong clan, Su clan, and Kuan clan. He was one of the 7 primordial demon emperors, and was known as the Cloud Bank Demon Emperor. Tu Qinjue, a core disciple of the Heaven and Earth Dao Court, ranked 9th on the All Heavens King Sage ranking, a pure-blooded descendant of the Black Water Battle Clan, one of the 10 major battle clans. He has mastered the Tao realm, death of all flowing water. Zhu Feiyu, a core disciple of the Demon Court, ranked 8th on the All Heavens King Sage ranking. Yanuo, a core disciple of the Black-Yellow Tao Court, ranked 7th on the All Heavens King Sage ranking. Feng Bailing, a pure-blooded descendant of the primordial Emperor Feng clan, ranked 6th on the All Heavens King Sage ranking. Kong Zhao Lin Sun only had one feeling when he read the names one by one. It seemed that the top 10 of the All Heavens King Sage ranking were almost completely occupied by the heirs of the 6 major Tao courts. I didn't expect Mi Wuya, Huangfu Xiaonong, and Ling Hongzhuang to actually participate in this Tao discussion. Suddenly, a surprised voice rang out in the hall. Wang Tu's childlike face was covered in a solemn expression. The others also turned to look at him with stern expressions. Mi Wuya, the number 1 core disciple of the Panwu Tao court, had dominated the first place on the All Heavens King Sage ranking for 600 years. He stood alone and no one could shake his position to this day. His name was widely spread throughout the starry sky ancient path. He was a legendary figure that was close to being truly invincible. Huangfu Xiaonong, the number 1 core disciple of the Universe Tao court, ranked 2nd on the All Heavens King Sage ranking. In the era when Mi Wuya had yet to rise to power, Huangfu Xiaonong had reigned supreme on the All Heavens King Sage ranking. This was also a terrifying monster that could not be measured by common sense. Ling Hongzhuang, on the other hand, was a core heir of the Black-Yellow Tao court. Her rise could be described as a miracle. In less than 100 years, her ranking on the All Heavens King Sage ranking had skyrocketed until she firmly occupied the 3rd place. Many people guessed that if Ling Hongzhuang was given a little more time, she would have a great chance of charging for the 1st or 2nd place. Now, whether it was Mi Wuya, Huangfu Xiaonong, or Ling Hongzhuang, all of them would obviously participate in the Tao discussion. No one had heard of this news before, and it caused the hearts of Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Xie Yuhua, and the others to churn. Looks like the Tao discussion this time is far more troublesome than I imagined, Su Muhan sighed softly. Every name on the list of names on the jade slip given by Guan Su was like a mountain that pressed down on one's heart, causing them to feel invisible pressure. It's not just troublesome, it's simply abnormal. Those peerless monsters from the other worlds in the starry sky are not to be trifled with. Ting Yichen smiled bitterly. I even suspect that people like us will probably be reduced to foils when we participate in the Tao discussion. His words caused everyone's expressions to waver indeterminately. Even Lu Dubu and Wu Huang frowned and carefully studied the contents of the jade slip, not daring to slack off in the slightest. Chapter 2022. The contents of the jade slips were indeed enough to make any cultivator tremble in fear. But Lin Sun was not one of them. His state of mind had already changed when he was able to resist the combined attacks of 5 quasi-emperor experts without the help of any treasures. While those of the same realm might still be staring at the top figures of the same realm, Lin Sun had already begun to think about how he would deal with quasi-emperor Zhu Shi if he encountered him. Moreover, Lin Sun had not been interested in the Tao discussion at all in the beginning. If senior brother Li Xianwei had not said that the purpose of this Tao discussion was to head to the forbidden ancient immortal area to search for treasures of chaos, Lin Sun would not have participated at all. Brother Jin, what do you think of this Tao discussion? Lu Dubu suddenly asked Lin Sun for his opinion. Everyone else in the hall immediately looked over. Lin Sun was the well-deserved number 1 in the Tao discussion of Yunzhou. It was impossible for anyone to ignore his opinion. Lin Sun was taken aback, then said after some thought, "It's too early to say anything now. When the Tao discussion really begins, the results will be revealed." This answer disappointed many people. But after thinking about it carefully, they realized that Lin Sun's opinion was not unreasonable. It was true that almost all those who participated in this Tao discussion were top-notch figures of the world, and there were even some who could be said to be abnormal and ruthless. But who dared to say that people like them would not have a chance to shine in the Tao discussion? In short, how could they decide who was better if they did not fight? The next morning, a treasured ship flowing with divine light rose from the Great Void Tao sect, carrying the Great Void Tao sect leader Guan Su, Lin Sun, and the other 9 people toward the Central Earth Tao province. At the same time, the same scene was playing out in various parts of the primordial world. The top 10 experts who stood out in the Tao discussion selection were all led by other experts to the Central Earth Tao province from all directions. This grand Tao discussion of an unprecedented scale is finally about to arrive. The world will gather in the Central Earth Tao province because of this. I wonder how many dazzling figures will stand out in this grand event. Let's wait and see. All over the primordial world, everyone was discussing this, and countless cultivators felt anticipation in their hearts. This was an unprecedented grand event. It could be foreseen that there would definitely be numerous peerless geniuses and peerless heroes that would encounter each other during the Tao discussion, discuss the Tao, and compete for supremacy. In an unknown place in the primordial world, it was surrounded by mountains and deserted. On a frozen lake, a figure sat cross-legged, holding a fishing rod in his hand. He was motionless, like an unchanging boulder. Whoosh! A ray of divine light suddenly flashed over from the extremely distant horizon. The fishing figure still didn't move. However, the fishing rod in his hand shook slightly, binding the divine rainbow and bringing it back in front of him. I've been sitting alone in the frozen lake for 300 years, tempering my state of mind until now. Finally, I've waited for this opportunity, a deep voice sounded. The motionless figure that was like a boulder stood up and stretched his waist. Boom! The frozen lake in front of him suddenly exploded into pieces, and the clouds in the sky and the nearby space suddenly collapsed. At this moment, a boundlessly terrifying and sharp aura charged out from the figure, and it caused the nearby mountains to tremble and everything to rustle. The figure's clothes fluttered, his eyes were like divine blades, and he was mighty like a god. Mi Wia Huangfu Xiaonong Ling Hongzhuang. Haha, after so many years, I wonder if all of you still remember me, you Ruhua? A wisp of coldness arose on the corners of the man's mouth, and then his figure vanished into thin air. Boom! After he vanished, an enormous beast with a terrifying aura charged out from the frozen lake, and it let out a heaven-shaking roar. Its scales were covered in dense and obscure markings of the Tao. This was a primitive variant beast of this unknown place, and it possessed a cultivation at the quasi-emperor realm. However, it had been frozen here for 300 years and suppressed beneath a fishing rod. The primordial world. Young master, the time has come. An old servant said respectfully with his head lowered. There was a well of blood that surged with demonic smoke on the ground before him. As the old servant's voice faded, a feminine voice rang out from the depths of the well. Has the Tao discussion grand meeting begun? Yes, the old servant said respectfully. It's finally here. If it still hadn't come, I don't know when I would have woken up again. As the feminine voice rang out, a strand of black demonic chi suddenly charged out from the well of blood, and it shot into the sky. In an instant, it seemed like night had descended, and the surrounding area was covered in deep black demonic chi. The old servant's body trembled, and he revealed a look of astonishment. He was a senior quasi-emperor, but at this moment, he felt an indescribable chill that made his heart palpitate. It was also at this moment that a slender figure walked out from the surging ink-like demonic chi. His clothes were whiter than snow, and he was completely spotless. His features were gentle and handsome, and his entire body flowed with the aura of light. However, as he walked, mysterious demonic diagrams appeared beneath his feet. Ji Bai, a unique name that almost no one knew of, a peerless figure that was silent within the demon-suppressing blood well. Ji Bai guarded the darkness. His body surged with light and he walked in the darkness. At the same time, one by one, powerful figures that were hidden in various parts of the vast primordial world, and even some peerless monstrous geniuses that did not care about the Tao discussion grand meeting, began to appear one after another, and they all surged towards the same place. Central Earth Tao Province. Black-Yellow Tao Court. Inside a simple and ancient grass hut. This Tao discussion grand meeting involves a supreme fortune in the ancient immortal forbidden area. When the curtains really open, all the eyes in the heavens will definitely be watching closely. Pass down the order, send a message to the other Tao courts, and let them each send a martial emperor to preside over this grand meeting. Inside the grass hut, an inconspicuous old man dressed in an old Tao item, with a lean appearance, and no aura fluctuations all over his body, sat cross-legged on a praying mat and spoke indifferently. Yes. Outside the grass hut, a respectful voice that came from the bottom of the heart rang out. The owner of the voice was a middle-aged man with a handsome appearance and an elegant bearing. He wore a feathered crown on his head, and he looked dignified and extraordinary. This person was the patriarch of the Black-Yellow Tao Court, Taishu Hong. An extraordinary figure whose name shook the world and deterred all the heavens. Moreover, he was a figure that had already stepped foot into the martial emperor realm in the primordial era. However, at this moment, his expression was solemn and respectful, because the person cultivating in the grass hut was a living fossil of the Black-Yellow Tao Court, an ancestor of the Tao who was like a divine needle that stabilized the seas. Ancestor, do you have any other instructions? Taishu Hong asked softly. The Tao discussion grand meeting seems to be just a competition between juniors, but it actually involves the battle for the chaos treasure in the ancient immortal forbidden area. Even martial emperors can't remain indifferent. Within the grass hut, the old man in a Taoist robe said, "But no matter what, the rules for this Tao discussion have already been set. Since the Tao discussion grand meeting is held in our Black-Yellow Tao Court, then this rule should be upheld by us, and no one can go against it." Taishu Hong nodded. "Ancestor, don't worry. Speaking of which, I'm also looking forward to seeing who will obtain the chaos treasure that was born in the ancient immortal forbidden area when the Tao discussion comes to an end." The old man in a Taoist robe spoke slowly. "It isn't just ancestor. All the powers in the world are bound to be extremely concerned about this matter. After all, possessing a chaos treasure that comes from an unknown place is equivalent to possessing the foundation to establish a Tao court." Taishu Hong's eyes flowed with a profound divine light. The appearance of the Black-Yellow Tao Court was similarly because of a chaos treasure, the Black-Yellow Tao Steel. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the reason the Black-Yellow Tao Court was able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the other 5 great Tao courts and be listed amongst the 6 great Tao courts was because of the Black-Yellow Tao Steel. And what sort of chaos treasure would appear in the ancient immortal forbidden area this time? Without a doubt, this was the focus of all the people in the starry sky. Even an emperor like Taishu Hong couldn't help but be tempted by it. Go. Remember, no matter what happens, it must be handled according to the rules of the Tao discussion grand meeting. Within the grass hut, the old man in a Taoist robe spoke in a solemn tone. Chapter 2023. In the sky, a treasured vessel was teleporting and flying. On the vessel, Guan Su had arranged a banquet and invited Lin Sun and the others to drink and chat. The Middle-earth Prefecture has always been known as the place where emperors gather, the place where Taofathers live in seclusion. A figure like me isn't sufficient at all after arriving there. Guan Su sighed with emotion. It's extremely prosperous and prosperous. Not only are there numerous powers there, but experts are numerous like trees in a forest. Any one of these powers is an overlord in any other prefecture. Lin Sun and the others listened silently, and they couldn't help but have their thoughts wander. The Middle-earth Prefecture, the heart of the prehistoric world, the most prosperous Taoist land in the starry sky. According to rumor, the territory of this prefecture was boundlessly vast, and it was utterly immeasurable. If the other prefectures of the prehistoric world were compared to numerous lakes of different sizes, then the Middle-earth prefecture was a vast ocean. After the Tao discussion ends, all of you can travel around the Middle-earth prefecture if you have the time and experience the prosperity and brilliance of this Taoist land. This is bound to be immeasurably beneficial to all of your future cultivation. Guan Su was like a benevolent senior as he chatted with Lin Sun and the others without putting on any airs. Lin Sun didn't know what the others thought, but at least he had an extremely good impression of Guan Su. This was a senior that was broad-minded and magnanimous. Of course, the objective of our trip this time is the Tao discussion. Once we arrive at the Middle-earth prefecture, I'll bring all of you to Azure Light Mountain at the first possible moment. The Dark Heaven Tao Court that awes the world resides there. At that time, all the most extraordinary figures at the peak of the Saint King realm in the world will gather there and participate in the Tao discussion like all of you. According to the information I obtained, the sect master of the Dark Heaven Tao Court, Senior Tai Shu Hong, will personally preside over the Tao discussion. When Guan Su spoke up to hear, many people gasped. Tai Shu Hong, an extraordinary figure that had already attained the Tao and become an emperor countless years ago. His name shook the starry sky and awed the world, and he possessed the title of Grand Emperor Tai Hao. I can foresee that when the curtains to the Tao discussion begin, there will surely be numerous Emperor realm figures appearing as guests. Guan Su's eyes revealed a wisp of longing. Not only did a Tao discussion gathering gather countless peak-level Saint Kings in the world, it had also attracted numerous emperors to attend the ceremony. It could be said to be unprecedented throughout the ages. Boom! Suddenly, a wave of the sound of the air being torn apart resounded in the distance. Guan Su stopped talking at once. He stood up and walked out of the cabin with Lin Sun and the others. They saw a huge fire turtle dragon beast flying in the void far away, like a floating continent. On the back of the fire turtle dragon beast was a beautiful divine mountain with rows upon rows of palaces. Ha ha ha, are you Tao friend Void Observation? An extremely burly figure appeared on the fire turtle dragon beast, laughing out loud. So it's Taoist Sangya. Guan Su smiled and cupped his fist. Sigh. It's more important to hurry on with our journey. I won't chat with you any longer. When we reach Green Radiance God Mountain, I'll look for you for a drink. Alright. I'll leave first. The tall and sturdy figure bade farewell, then urged the fire turtle dragon beast to gallop away. He's the sect master of the number 1 sect in the Star Continent, the Stellaris Battle Sect. Just like me, he's shouldering the task of leading the top 10 of the Star Continent to participate in the Tao discussion. Guan Su explained. Star State? I remember that the number 1 person in the Star State is called Su Qingjian. She's fairy-like and beautiful, and is regarded as the number 1 fairy in the Star State. Someone chuckled. It's a pity that we didn't get to see the elegance of this peerless beauty. Many people laughed along. At this Tao discussion, not only were there stars shining brightly, but there were also many peerless beauties on the starry sky ranking. 2 days later, the treasured ship sailed into the territory of the Central Continent. Unfortunately, in order to hurry on with their journey, Lin Sun and the others couldn't get a good look at the Central Continent. This is the Void Waterway that leads to Green Radiance God Mountain. Once you enter it, you'll reach the black-yellow celestial court within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. In front of an ancient city, there were many divine rainbow tunnels floating. Guan Su pointed at one of the divine rainbows and said, Void Waterway. It was a path that was opened up in the world barrier. Once you entered it, you could directly reach your destination. Only colossal beings like the 6 great Tao courts and the 10 great war clans could set up such a marvelous path. If they used the teleportation ancient formation to move, they would have to change the ancient formation frequently. Not only would it consume a large amount of Dao gems, it would also be extremely troublesome to constantly change the route. After all, the central continent was too big. It seemed boundless. If they didn't use the Void Waterway, just reaching Green Radiance God Mountain would require them to travel day and night for many days. Let's go. Guan Su took out a mysterious black-yellow token and shook it lightly. The divine rainbow in the void instantly became beautiful and smooth, and a door appeared. With a swoosh, under Guan Su's lead, the treasured ship swept into the door and disappeared in an instant. In the Void Waterway, it was a different scene. It was as if they had entered a gray and hazy chaotic world. It was also on this Void Waterway leading to Qingmong Divine Mountain that Lin Sun and the others saw many figures one after another. Some rode on huge treasured ships, some rode on huge beasts, some stepped on auspicious clouds, and some rode on treasures along the way. Guan Su kept greeting people and introduced them to Lin Sun and the others. They were all experts from other provinces in the primordial world like them. For example, the Nether Province, the Green Province, the Snow Province, and so on. So that fellow is Ming Qiang. There are so many people, and the aura of every single one of them is so terrifying. This is what I look forward to, isn't it? Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, and the others sighed endlessly with emotion. Along the way, they saw many dazzling figures from the various provinces, and every single one of them had a different bearing and aura. From the beginning until the end, Lin Sun watched silently, and he was actually extremely shocked in his heart. If they didn't participate in the Tao discussion this time, who would have imagined that there would actually be so many dazzling figures in the world? Boom! Suddenly, a rumbling sound resounded in this chaotic void waterway. An ancient bronze chariot galloped over from behind, and it emitted a rumbling sound that sounded like thunder. This bronze chariot was like the carriage of the gods of the primeval times. Divine light flowed, and the light of the Tao fluttered, and various phenomena of the great Tao surged into appearance. And what pulled the bronze chariot were 8 green ferocious birds. Every single one of these birds had wings that were like clouds that covered the sky, and they had a single leg. Their entire bodies emitted boundlessly terrifying flames, and their auras were completely not inferior to quasi-emperors. The great primeval ferocious beasts, Bifong bird, and there were a total of 8 of them. But now they only played the role of pulling the chariot, the 9 heavens chariot. This is the carriage of the ultimate demon sword emperor. Many figures who were hurrying along revealed looks of shock at the same time. Some of the older figures who were leading the group even revealed looks of extreme fear, and without hesitation, they retreated to the side, bowed and lowered their heads. The ultimate demon sword emperor, the master of the 9 heavenly palaces of the great Tao, one of the 3 great emperors of the demon Tao in the starry sky, and a terrifying existence that reigned supreme over the heavens. Although the 9 heavenly palaces of the great Tao were not as powerful as the 6 major Tao courts and the 10 major battle clans, but because of the ultimate demon sword emperor, even powerful beings like the 6 major Tao courts and the 10 major battle clans did not dare to underestimate the existence of the 9 heavenly palaces of the great Tao. It was not an exaggeration to say that the ultimate demon sword emperor alone supported the entire 9 heavenly palaces of the great Tao. And now, seeing the appearance of the ultimate demon sword emperor's carriage, who would not be shocked, and who would dare to disrespect it? For a time, the surrounding area made way for an extremely wide path. Countless figures hurrying along retreated to the side, and the atmosphere was silent. At this moment, even Guan Su bowed and lowered his head, and told Lin Sun and the others to tell them the identity of the ultimate demon sword emperor. How majestic! Lin Sun could not help but reveal a look of shock. It was just the appearance of a chariot, and there was no way to confirm whether the ultimate demon sword emperor was in it. But when it appeared, it was like the arrival of a king, and along the way, countless experts bowed their heads. The extreme demon sword emperor. What kind of terrifying existence was he? Suddenly, a strange look flashed across Lin Sun's eyes. On his body, a token that had been left aside for many years, and had almost been forgotten, suddenly glowed with a green light. The 9 heavenly palaces of the great Tao was covered by a curtain, and the space inside was extremely large. It was like a magnificent, gorgeous palace. A beautiful and pure girl in white, with pitch-black eyes as bright as gems, held her cheeks with her snow-white hands, and was lost in thought. The table before her was piled high with precious fruits and delicacies from the various worlds in the starry sky. Any single one of them could be said to be priceless, rare to the extreme, and it was sufficient to make some old fellows covet them. But now, these treasures had become the snacks of the girl in white. But it seemed that she was not interested in these snacks at all. What's wrong, little worm? Are you still thinking about that boy named Lin Sun? In the central seat, a middle-aged man in a cyan robe said helplessly. His figure was thin, his eyebrows were sparse, and his temples were white. Sitting casually, he gave off a kind of unruly and unrestrained feeling. As he spoke, he took off the yellow-skinned gourd from his waist and took a sip of wine, feeling rather complicated in his heart. After all these years, the one that little worm cared about the most was that boy in the ancient desolation realm. Over these years, in order to make up for the guilt he felt in the past, he had collected all kinds of treasures in the world, and used all means for the good of his daughter. As long as his daughter made a request, he would absolutely agree without hesitation. But what made him helpless was that his daughter had always been thinking about that boy named Lin Sun. This made him, as her father, very jealous. Father, do you think brother Lin Sun will participate in the Tao discussion grand meeting? The girl in white said in a clear voice. The cyan-robed man rubbed the tip of his eyebrows and said, It's hard to say. That year, I said I would take him to the ancient path of the starry sky to cultivate, but that boy refused. I even suspect that he is still in the ancient desolation realm until now. His voice stopped abruptly, because he suddenly saw that the clear big eyes of the girl in white were full of tears, and she seemed to be very sad. The cyan-robed man instantly panicked. Until now, he had been arrogant, unrestrained, and unrestrained. He was afraid of nothing and looked down on everything. Chapter 2024. Little worm, this kid might have already reached the ancient starry sky path. The middle-aged man in green said softly, Think about it. Back then, he caused such a huge commotion in the Kunlun ruins. The entire ancient starry sky path was shaken. The girl in white took a deep breath and said, Father, I'm worried about brother Lin Sun. That's why I miss him. The middle-aged man in green said, When the trip to the Kunlun ruins ended, the path to the ancient starry sky path was heavily blocked. However, no one found the kid's whereabouts in the end. Moreover, no one in the entire starry sky has seen this kid. That's why I suspect that he might have returned to the ancient desolation region. The girl in white was stunned and said, Father, are you saying that we have to return to the ancient desolation region if we want to see brother Lin Sun? Why don't we go now? I'm not interested in attending the Tao discussion grand event. The middle-aged man in green smiled bitterly and said, Little worm, it's not that I don't want you to see this kid, but the ancient desolation region has long been covered by the forbidden power. I paid a great price to bring you back from the ancient desolation region. The girl in white sighed and said sadly, Then what should we do? The middle-aged man in green was about to say something when a strange expression suddenly surged in the depths of his eyes. Swoosh! Almost immediately, a terrifying willpower silently swept out from the 9 heavens chariot and enveloped the treasure ship where Lin Sun and the others were. Guan Su's body stiffened. He felt his blood run cold and found it difficult to breathe. He was shocked. Could it be the aura of the ultimate demon sword emperor? At the same time, Lin Sun, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Xie Yuhua and the others felt uncomfortable. It was as if they were being stared at by the eyes of God. They felt like all their secrets were being seen through. This was? Their expressions changed at the same time. I'm Guan Su from the Great Void Dao Sect. Greetings, Senior. If I've offended you, please forgive me. Guan Su bowed and transmitted his voice. His heart was beating rapidly, and he was already sweating profusely. He was sure that the terrifying willpower definitely came from the ultimate demon Sword Emperor. He was one of the 3 emperors of the Starry Sky Demon Dao, a supreme overlord who could stand on equal footing with the sect masters of the 6 great Dao courts. Even though he, Guan Su, already had 1 foot in the emperor realm, he felt as tiny as an ant at this moment. What's the name of the first young man on your left? What's his background? A voice sounded out in the hollow heart lake. It was faintly discernible like the sonorous voice of the great Tao, yet it carried a formless and supreme dignity. Guan Su's pupils narrowed, yet he summoned up his courage and said, Senior, this kid's name is Jean Di, and he's the first in the Cloud Prefecture's Tao discussion, that voice uttered before completely disappearing. At the same time, the terrifying aura that enveloped Guan Su, Lu Dubu, and the others also disappeared, causing their bodies to feel relaxed. Only Lin Sun's body was stiff, as if there was a sword on his back. Because that terrifying aura was like a sharp blade that was sizing up everything around him, causing him to feel powerless like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. After a short while, a voice resounded within his heart. Young man, I really look forward to your display during the Tao discussion. The voice lingered and then disappeared. Lin Sun was stunned. What did this mean? He looked up and saw that the 9th heaven chariot had already been pulled by 8 Fong birds and was rumbling away. Let's go too. At the same time, Guan Su said with relief. He didn't dare to stay any longer and drove the treasure ship to move forward. On the 9th heaven chariot, the man in cyan said with a smile, Insect, we don't have to go to the ancient wilderness anymore. The girl in white was stunned. Why? The man in cyan got up slowly and stared at his daughter. I promise that you won't be disappointed in this Tao discussion. The girl in white thought for a moment, and her dark eyes lit up. She said excitedly, Father, you don't mean that Brother Lin will appear in the Tao discussion, do you? The man in cyan praised her in his heart. She deserved to be the daughter of Xia Xinglia. Let's go and have a look. He laughed heartily. After hesitating for a while, the girl in white finally nodded. Has my identity been seen through? On the treasure ship, Lin Sun was surprised and doubtful. Anyway, at least there were no twists and turns, which made Lin Sun breathe a sigh of relief. When he was locked by the aura of extreme demon Sword Emperor just now, it was extremely torturous. He turned over his palm, and a verdant message talisman appeared. On the message talisman, there was a wantonly Taoist rune imprinted, Xia. It was a word, but it was like an emperor descending to the 9th heaven, with a sense of disdain for the universe and awe. This message talisman was given by Xia Xiaochong's father, Xia Xinglia, in the ancient wilderness. Until now, Lin Sun would never forget that when Xia Xinglia left with Xia Xiaochong, he stepped into the sky and flew away. The power of the law of heaven and earth couldn't stop him from leaving. For the first time, Lin Sun deeply realized what it meant to pierce the sky. It also made him judge that Xia Xiaochong's father should be an emperor. And just now, when the 9th heaven chariot appeared, this message talisman given by Xia Xinglia suddenly produced a fluctuation. Then, the aura of Extreme Demon Sword Emperor shrouded over. Thinking of what Extreme Demon Sword Emperor had just said, Lin Sun couldn't help but think. This Extreme Demon Sword Emperor, could he be Xia Xiaochong's father? Thinking of this, he got up quietly and found Guan Su alone. He said, Senior, can you tell me about this Extreme Demon Sword Emperor? Guan Su thought for a moment and said, Extreme Demon Sword Emperor proved his Taoism in the ancient times, and his combat power was unfathomable. His most famous battle was that he once challenged the demon court alone with a sword. At that time, there were 5 old monsters in the demon court, but without exception, they were all defeated by Extreme Demon Sword Emperor's sword. After this battle, the name of Extreme Demon Sword Emperor resounded throughout the world, and he was regarded as one of the 3 great emperors of diabolism. As for his origin, it can be said that there are different opinions. So far, there is no accurate statement. The world only knows that he is called Xiaoxinglia. When hearing this, Lin Sun's pupils suddenly shrank and he was shocked. Xiaoxinglia. Xia Xiaochong's father was actually the master of the 9 heavenly palace, the famous Extreme Demon Sword Emperor. Even with Lin Sun's state of mind, he could not help but gasp. This truth surprised him, and he found it hard to believe. After a long time, he finally calmed down a little, and finally understood that Extreme Demon Sword Emperor should have recognized his identity through that green message talisman. Since Senior Xiaoxinglia is here, is Xiaochong also with him? Lin Sun thought. Moreover, Senior Xiaoxinglia should have also seen that once his identity was exposed, it would cause a great disturbance, so he did not recognize me? Get ready, we are about to reach Qingmong Divine Mountain. Suddenly, Guanxu said. A dazzling gate appeared in the depths of the void waterway that seemed to be filled with chaos. When Lin Sun and the others entered the door, the treasure ship immediately disappeared. Boom! There was a violent shaking, and the scene in front of them changed as if the stars had moved. When their vision cleared, a beautiful fairyland-like world was reflected in everyone's eyes. In the vast sky, auspicious clouds were rising, and the chi of chaos turned into wisps of mist, falling from the sky. On the earth, there were mountains and peaks undulating. Every mountain was beautiful, shining with divine light, exuding a primitive, ancient, vigorous and sacred atmosphere. Just looking at it from a distance, Lin Sun and the others were shocked. This world was like the legendary fairyland. The air was filled with the breath of the Great Way, which could be clearly felt. As they breathed, the rich spiritual chi poured into their bodies like a sweet spring and spread to their limbs and bones, making them feel like an immortal. Qingmong Divine Mountain. It was said that at the beginning, this world was an unknown place. Later, it was discovered by the founder of the Black-Yellow Taoist court and obtained the Black-Yellow Taoist tablet, a treasure of chaos born in this mountain. Since then, the Black-Yellow Taoist court was established. Since then, the Qingmong Divine Mountain had become a well-known place of the Taoist court, which had existed for countless years. At this time, Lin Sun and the others were located outside the gate of the Black-Yellow Taoist court. But even so, the scene in their eyes was already spectacular. Come with me, don't act without permission. After putting away the treasure ship, Guanxu landed with Lin Sun and the others and came to a mountain gate. Here, many figures had already gathered. Like Lin Sun and the others, they were the top 10 people from other states in the primordial world. Taoism friends from Cloud State, please wait here. A young man in black clothes from the Black-Yellow Taoist court waved in the distance. His attitude was neither cold nor indifferent, neither humble nor arrogant. Thank you for your guidance. Guanxu cupped his hands and walked over with Lin Sun and the others. He was the leader of the first orthodoxy in Cloud State, but in the face of a disciple from the Black-Yellow Taoist court, he showed great respect. From this, it could be seen how transcendent and terrifying the status and power of the Black-Yellow Taoist court was. You wait here for a while. When all the Taoism friends from the 48 states arrive, I will arrange a place for you to stay. The young man in black clothes told them and left in a hurry. In front of the mountain gate, the strong people from all states were looking at each other and discussing something in a low voice. Similarly, Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua and others were also looking at the other people present to identify each other's identity and origin. Especially the first person in the discussion of Tao in each state, he received a lot of attention. Look, that person should be Jin Di, the first person in the discussion of Tao in Cloud State. Even Lu Dubu was suppressed by him. Jin Di, The name sounds overbearing, but why does he look very low-key? All kinds of discussions sounded. Lin Sun didn't care about the eyes and discussions from all around, and his state of mind was not affected. Suddenly, a laugh sounded. Haha, it's a small world. Miss Xianyue, we meet again. Chapter 2025. The young man in linen was lazy and sloppy. It was Xian Jiuyin, the young man who had crossed the starry sky with Lin Sun and Jintian Xianyue on the boat. It's you. Jintian Xianyue was stunned, but she was not very surprised. Because from the news she had inquired before, she knew that this playful guy was now the first in the Tao discussion competition in Tongzhou. It was not surprising that he came to participate in the Tao discussion grand conference. Ha, Miss Xianyue still remembers me. The young man in linen smiled and seemed very enthusiastic. Well, I remember that you acted with brother Yu Xian. Where is he? As he said, he began to look at Lin Sun, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang and others. Child Yu Xian is not here. Jintian Xianyue said. The hemp-clothed youth responded with an "oh" and suddenly transmitted his voice with a smile. When we were on the boat, I saw that Yu Xian had disguised himself. Now, he should have appeared with another identity. If I'm not wrong, that Jin Di over there is that fellow? Jintian Xuanyue's clear eyes were fixed. However, before she could speak, the young man in linen clothes waved his hand and said, "There's no need to explain. It's fine so long as I'm clearly aware. Right, help me tell him that we're a group during the Tao discussion, so unless it's a spar according to the rules, otherwise we can't kill each other." As he said, he smiled and nodded to Lin Sun, who was not far away, and then turned away. Jintian Xianyue frowned. Was this guy testing, or had he really guessed Child's identity? Child, just now, immediately, she told Lin Sun what the young man in linen had just said. Lin Sun thought for a while and said, "This guy should have no evil intentions. Don't worry." Jintian Xianyue nodded and couldn't help asking again, "Child, are we really going to ally with that guy?" Lin Sun said casually, "Let's play it by ear." As time went by, more and more strong people came to Qingmong Mountain, and almost all of them were the top 10 figures in Hongmeng world. Isn't it said that some peerless geniuses from other worlds will also come to this Tao discussion grand conference? Why haven't we seen them yet? Someone muttered. These peerless and monstrous geniuses are brought along by their seniors, and they've arrived here a long time ago. There's utterly no need for them to undergo any Tao discussion selections before they can directly participate in the Tao discussion. They aren't the same type of people as us. Someone's tone was sour. For example, the people present here could be considered to be the most dazzling group of geniuses in the various provinces. Not only did they possess extraordinary backgrounds, they were outstanding figures amongst their peers, and they were extremely dazzling. But before this, he'd experienced numerous selections in order to seize the qualifications to participate in the Tao discussion. In comparison, those peerless monstrous geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky had such qualifications without having to go through the selection process. This naturally made people feel very unbalanced. It's not just them. Aren't the heirs of the 6 great Tao courts and 10 great combat clans able to participate in the Tao discussion event as well? If you're disgruntled in your heart, then you can defeat them one by one during the Tao discussion. Only in this way would you be able to prove yourself and not make sarcastic remarks. While they were discussing animatedly, a voice that was piercingly cold like ice suddenly resounded. "Who's not convinced? Step forward." His words caused everyone to look in the same direction. A figure had suddenly appeared before the ancient entrance, and he had his hands behind his back as he swept everyone with his gaze. This was a man with an extremely slender figure. He wore multicolored clothes, a cloud crown on his head, and a bright golden jade belt around his waist. His handsome face carried a wisp of undisguised ridicule and iciness. He stood there by himself while his entire body was enshrouded by multicolored and resplendent light, and he revealed an unparalleled elegant bearing and arrogance. Kong Zhao. It's actually him. Could it be that he really intends to make a move before the Tao discussion event? A wave of restlessness arose in the surroundings. Many of the dazzling figures from the various provinces revealed solemn, fearful, and shocked expressions. Kong Zhao, the fifth on the King Sage rankings, the core disciple of the primitive Tao court, and the most dazzling star in the younger generation of the imperial clan, the Kong clan. A very long time ago, he was a peerless genius whose name shook the starry sky, and he was looked up to by countless people of the same generation. When they saw him make an appearance, it instantly caused everyone to recall something. A few days ago, there was news that said Kong Zhao had threatened to make the number one figure of the various provinces in the world lower their heads before the Tao discussion event. Obviously, Kong Zhao's appearance at this moment seemed to confirm this news. For a time, the sounds of discussion in the surroundings had vanished, and it had actually become perfectly silent. The expressions of the great figures who led the experts of various provinces also changed. They didn't expect that Kong Zhao would appear in advance before they entered the mountain gate of the black-yellow Taoist court. Lin Sun glanced at this person with an indifferent expression, but he thought of another matter in his heart. When he was on the rocking boat, he had indeed killed many experts of the imperial clan of the Kong clan. Even after arriving at the primordial world, Kong Yu, Kong Yin, Chu Rao, and the others were also killed by him. However, at that time, he appeared as Yu Xian. No matter how suspicious Kong Zhao was, it was absolutely impossible for him to be suspected. Of course, it was impossible for Lin Sun to be afraid of this person. It should be known that the ancestor of the imperial clan of the Kong clan, the solitary sky demon emperor, who was regarded as one of the 7 primordial demon emperors, was still suppressed in his Tower of Endless Way. Calculating the time, in less than a year, he would probably be completely refined and obliterated from the world. Seeing that no one spoke, Kong Zhao, who was standing in front of the mountain gate, looked more and more cold and disdainful. He said, "Wasn't there someone who was dissatisfied just now? Why doesn't anyone dare to fight now?" With a single sentence, he looked down on all the heroes present. Some of the top experts of various provinces revealed a cold expression, but before they could take action, they were dissuaded and warned by the great figures around them one by one, telling them not to be impulsive before the beginning of the Tao discussion conference, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. After all, this was the black-yellow Taoist court. He, Kong Zhao, had the confidence to behave atrociously here, but they, who came from other provinces, did not dare to do so. This kind of people who only dare to talk about others behind their backs, but don't have the courage to stand out. Even if they participate in the Tao discussion conference, it is no different from courting death. Kong Zhao shook his head, revealing a look of disappointment. Today, he stood here to make all the provinces bow their heads. He originally thought that under his provocation, there would be people standing out angrily. Unexpectedly, no one dared to answer. This seemed to be no different from all bowing their heads, but it made Kong Zhao feel quite bored. Fellow Taoist, the Tao discussion hasn't begun yet, so it's a bit too early to speak about all of this now. Finally, someone couldn't help but speak. At the very least, I know that these fellow Taoists aren't afraid of trouble, and they just don't want to cause trouble before the Tao discussion conference begins. It was a handsome man with a gaze that was like bolts of lightning, and his words could be considered to be courteous, causing many people to nod. Cause trouble? Haha, all of you are just afraid. Kong Zhao started laughing with an ostentatious bearing. How about this, if any of you think you have the strength to defeat me, Kong Zhao, then feel free to come at me. I guarantee that no matter if it's the primordial Tao court or my Kong clan, neither of them will look for trouble with all of you. His words were resolute and extremely domineering. This caused many experts to be moved. They were indeed only afraid of Kong Zhao's identity. I'm He Fining from the Swallow Prefecture, and I'm willing to seize this opportunity to spar with fellow Taoist. A jade-robed man stood out, and he was handsome and possessed an extraordinary bearing. The spirits of many were refreshed. He Fining, the third in the Swallow Prefecture Tao discussion, a peak Saint King at the perfection stage of the absolute Saint King realm, and he was reputed to be the number one Saint King in body refinement in the Swallow Prefecture. Finally, someone stood out to strike a blow against Kong Zhao's arrogance. All the experts from the various prefectures were looking forward to it. For a time, He Fining seemed to have become the focus of attention. Lin Sun also revealed a look of interest. One was ranked 5th on the All-Heaven King Sage list, and the other was ranked 3rd in the Tao Discussion Conference. Such a battle was utterly impossible to see. 3 moves. Kong Zhao sized He Fining up, and then he stretched out 3 fingers. If I can't suppress you in 3 moves, then I, Kong Zhao, will leave immediately and withdraw from the Tao Discussion Conference. Hiss. A wave of gasps resounded. This Kong Zhao is too confident. To He Fining, Kong Zhao's words were simply like a great humiliation, and it caused his face to turn gloomy. He wants to defeat me in 3 moves? How arrogant! Right at this moment, Kong Zhao attacked brazenly, and his figure suddenly vanished on the spot. In the field of vision of everyone, they could only see a colorful divine ray of light flashing in the void. In the next moment, he'd arrived in front of He Fining, and he pressed his palm forward. The first move. Bang! As he pressed his palm forward, the 5-colored light condensed into a dazzling divine seal, giving off an earth-shaking roar. He Fining's pupils shrank, and he tried his best to resist it. But the next moment, he was sent flying backward and fell in the void dozens of meters away. He coughed up blood, and the nearby void collapsed and the ground cracked. Many people's expressions changed. Dazzling figures like them were all experienced in battles, and they had sharp eyes. They could tell at a glance that He Fining was not caught unprepared, but was heavily defeated in a head-on confrontation under the condition that he was prepared for it. Seeing this, Lin Sun also made a prediction in his heart: if it's really a life-and-death battle, I'm afraid He Fining won't be able to resist even 1 move. It seemed to confirm Lin Sun's inference. In the second move, He Fining resisted with all his might, but he was still defeated. His whole body was smashed into the ground, and his face was covered with dirt, and his body was twitching. He was completely powerless to resist. In the third move, Kong Zhao stepped on He Fining's head. At this moment, the whole place fell into a dead silence. Even if it was the number 1 expert in the Tao discussion, his expression had become extremely heavy, and his heart was like a tempestuous storm that was impossible to calm down. He Fining was ranked 3rd in a state. How powerful was he? But in the battle with Kong Zhao, he was absolutely crushed. There was no doubt that if Kong Zhao wanted to, he could kill He Fining on the spot as long as he exerted force with his toes. At this moment, looking at Kong Zhao, who was standing proudly like a god on He Fining's head, everyone deeply realized how important the number 5 on the All-Heaven King list was. This is the number 3 in a state? He's really weak. Don't show up in the future, lest you make a fool of yourself. Chapter 2026. Outside the mountain gate, it was silent. The dazzling figures from various provinces all looked gloomy. Kong Zhao's strength made them tremble and horrified, and his disdainful words made them very uncomfortable. But obviously, Kong Zhao didn't care about it at all. With a bang, He Fining was kicked away from the ground. Then he said slowly, "Is there anyone else who is not convinced?" "Yes." A man in black stood out, looking angry. "Are you ranked 1st in a province?" Kong Zhao asked. The man in black's face suddenly turned red. Kong Zhao laughed and shook his finger, saying, "You have no choice because you are not qualified to challenge me." Speaking of this, he seemed to think of something and suddenly asked, "Who is Jin Tian Xianyue?" Whoosh! On the side of Yunzhou, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu and others all looked at Jin Tianxianyue. At the same time, Jin Tianxianyue walked out and said indifferently, "Do you want to compare notes with me?" She looked cold and as beautiful as a fairy. As soon as she stood out, she attracted many people's attention. Compare notes? No. Kong Zhao's gaze swept unbridledly across Jin Tianxianyue's graceful figure. Even though my clan brother Kong Yu is very unbearable, he is still a member of the Kong clan after all. However, he was killed by a fellow called Yu Xian. You should be aware of this, right? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows imperceptibly. He didn't expect that Kong Zhao would mention this matter at this moment and point the spearhead at Jin Tianxianyue. Jin Tianxianyue said indifferently in a clear voice, "I know. I can only say that it's good that your younger brother died. If he is still alive, I don't know how many troubles he will cause for your Kong family in the future." Others feared Kong Zhao's identity, but as a descendant of the primordial White Emperor, she did not fear this. "I don't care about it." But Kong Zhao's eyes were cold. "I just want to know where Yu Xian is." Yu Xian? Most of the people present were confused. Only those experts that came from the Azure province vaguely remembered that there was an expert called Yu Xian who killed Kong Yu and his group outside the Azure province's Linen City some time ago, and it caused a great uproar. It was obvious that Kong Zhao was talking about Yu Xian. Ridiculous. How could I possibly know where Yu Xian is? Jin Tianxianyue sneered. Kong Zhao's expression turned cold. Do you think I don't know that you, Jin Tianxianyue, were together with Yu Xian? If you don't give me an explanation today, then don't blame me for crushing you before this Dao discussion gathering. His words were filled with killing intent. Suppress? You can try. Jin Tianxianyue's eyes also turned cold, and he didn't give in at all. At this moment, even Void Master Guan felt it was extremely troublesome, and he had a huge headache. He didn't know how to resolve this dispute before him. Because one was a descendant of the Wilderness Dao Court, a descendant of the Imperial Clan Kong Clan, and the other was a descendant of the primeval White Emperor. Both of them were figures that couldn't be provoked. Lin Sun had been watching coldly from the side. When he saw this scene, killing intent flashed in his heart, and he completely sentenced Kong Zhao to death. However, at this moment, Kong Zhao chuckled and said, "This is before the Yellow Heaven Dao Court. Because of a grand event of Dao discussion, all the gazes in the starry sky have gathered here. If you, Jin Tianxianyue, are suppressed here, then you'll lose a great deal of face. At that time, your Jin Tian clan will probably be humiliated because of you." This was an undisguised threat. Jin Tianxianyue said indifferently, "I only know that Kong Yu is dead, but you, Kong Zhao, can't even find the murderer. You only dare to clamor and act wildly here. You've completely lost the face of your Kong clan." What a sharp tongue! Kong Zhao's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot, and he actually attacked without hesitation. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Jin Tianxianyue. His palm and fingers were like claws, and they transformed into 5-colored divine rainbows that enveloped down like a colorful and dazzling net. Fast. Unbelievably fast. Many people's expressions changed. Previously, He Feining, who was ranked third in the Dao discussion gathering in Yan province, was powerless to resist and was easily suppressed. At this time, how could Jin Tianxianyue, who was ranked 7th in Yunzhou, resist Kong Zhao's suppression? Unfortunately, everyone ignored one point. Jin Tianxianyue's 7th place was completely drawn by luck, and it did not match her own strength. More importantly, she was ranked 49th on the All-Heaven King Sage list. Clang! In front of Jin Tianxianyue, a white sword swept out like a cold light that shocked the 9 heavens. Under the slash, Kong Zhao's attack was easily resolved. However, Kong Zhao's expression was calm as he sent out another palm strike. Boom! When this palm condensed, it was like a 5-colored seal in the hand of a heavenly master had descended to the world, and it emitted a world-destroying killing power. Jean Tianxuanyue's clear eyes narrowed, and her body felt cold. Just when she was about to dodge. Then, a sharp light suddenly appeared, condensed to the extreme, fierce to the extreme, bright and dazzling. Many people couldn't open their eyes, and they felt a stabbing pain. After that, a deafening rumble resounded. The 5-colored palm was penetrated, and then it suddenly exploded into a rain of light that rained down. Then, with a muffled groan, Kong Zhao, who was as powerful as a god, stepped back a few steps, and bright red blood flowed between his palms and fingers. Only then did the people in the field notice that there was a figure standing in front of Jean Tianxuanyue. He was dressed in a moon-white robe, and he was handsome. It was Lin Sun. "It's him, Jean Dui. How dare he intervene in this matter? Amazing!" Caught off guard, even Kong Zhao suffered a loss. There was an uproar in the field, and all eyes were focused on Lin Sun. They were full of surprise. They didn't expect that he would intervene. "Jean Di, the champion of Yunzhou?" Kong Zhao said. At this moment, his eyes were surging with burning divine light, and his killing intent soared to the sky. His whole body was terrifying. Under the gazes of everyone present, he was actually injured, and a sword mark was torn between his palms and fingers. This caused him to be furious. Lin Sun said indifferently, "Your enemy is Yu Xian, not Miss Xianyue, yet you target her like this. Don't you feel ashamed?" Lu Dubu, Xieyuhua, and the others were surprised. In their impression, Jean Dui had always been very silent, and he seemed to not care about anything. But at this moment, he actually took the initiative to attack, and he wasn't afraid in the slightest when facing a terrifying figure like Kong Zhao. "Ha ha, ha ha, who do you think you are to teach me a lesson?" Kong Zhao laughed out of extreme anger. He took a step forward and revealed his killing intent. "Since you meddled in other people's business, then you must pay the price this time." Bang! Behind him, red, green, black, white, and yellow divine lights flashed up. They were misty and flowed, and they were enshrouded in a dazzling and resplendent glow. This was the power of the Imperial Kong clan's innate bloodline, 5-colored divine light. According to legend, the original body of the Imperial Kong clan's ancestor was a 5-colored peacock. He controlled 5-colored divine light, and he could destroy all kinds of treasures with a light swipe. It's over. Kong Zhao is angry. Even if Jean Di doesn't die, he will be heavily injured. Many people felt a chill in their hearts. Especially Guan Su, he was extremely anxious. He had an extremely good impression of Lin Sun, and he originally thought highly of Lin Sun. He even hoped that Lin Sun could shine in the Tao discussion and win glory for the cultivation world of Yunzhou. Who would have thought that such a great disturbance would occur before the Tao discussion began? Among the people present, only 2 people were the calmest. One was Jean Tianxuanyue, she knew Lin Sun's background the best. The other was the youth in linen, Xian Juin. Since Lin Sun took the initiative to interfere in this matter, he immediately confirmed that this brother was definitely Yu Xian. Therefore, when he saw Lin Sun and Kong Zhao fighting, there was only a sense of excitement and expectation in his heart, and he wished that the world would be in chaos. Because he knew too well how fierce this brother was, and his method of pretending to be weak was better than anyone else. But before this battle broke out, a deep voice resounded. "Kong Zhao, we are guests. How can you make a big fuss here? Come back quickly." These words resounded between heaven and earth, indistinctly like the sound of the Great Way. Everyone looked solemn, and a sense of awe arose involuntarily in their hearts. The owner of this voice must be in existence in the Emperor realm. Kong Zhao stopped, and his expression was uncertain. After a moment of silence, he stretched out his hand and pointed at Lin Sun, saying, "I will kill you in the Tao discussion." He enunciated each word with a pause, and his killing intent boiled. After saying that, he turned around and left. Watching his figure disappear in the mountain gate, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief in unison, as if a stone pressing on their hearts had been removed. In fact, the pressure brought to them by Kong Zhao before was indeed too great. He was just one person, but his wild and arrogant power made it impossible for anyone to ignore him. Jin Di is lucky. He made Kong Zhao suffer a little loss, and luckily avoided a dangerous killing. Many people sighed with emotion. They didn't know that Lin Sun was also a little disappointed at this moment, because he was ready to deal with Kong Zhao, but he didn't expect that an accident would happen. The teenager in linen was also very disappointed. He couldn't help muttering, "I don't know which old guy is so disappointing." He didn't speak earlier or later, but at this time, some strong people nearby were stunned and speechless. Who was this guy? How dare he complain to an Emperor realm figure from the primitive Taoist court? But the teenager in linen didn't care about this. Not only was he not afraid of people like Kong Zhao, but he also didn't care whether his words would offend an Emperor realm figure. Because his surname was Xian. A surname was enough. Lin Sun also heard the murmur and couldn't help glancing at the teenager in linen. Why did this guy like to watch the fun so much? Noticing Lin Sun's gaze, the teenager in linen smiled and waved his hand. "Dude, you were really awesome just now." Lin Sun directly ignored him. He had roughly judged that the teenager in linen must have confirmed his identity. Of course, the identity he recognized was Yu Xian, so Lin Sun didn't worry about anything. In addition, he had another identity. One was Lin Daoyuan, and the other was his real identity, Lin Sun. At the same time, inside the mountain gate, with Kong Zhao's departure, some people who had been staring at the movement outside the mountain gate withdrew their eyes one after another. On a rock inside the mountain gate, a man with a long sword on his back squatted. His long hair was loose, and his clothes were open, looking unruly. He said while drinking from a wine gourd, "Jin Di is a little interesting." Chapter 20-27. Inside the mountain gate, clear springs flowed and ancient rocks piled up. The man with a long sword on his back was casually squatting on a rock. His clothes were unbuttoned as he drank freely. There was a kind of boorish wildness about him. Zhu Feiyu. He was a core successor of the demon court and ranked 8th on the All Heavens King Sage list. Even if he suddenly intervened and caught Kong Zhao off guard, it's not something an ordinary person can do. This Jin Di is indeed worth paying attention to. In front of a stream, a man took off his boots and soaked his feet in the water. He was flipping through a book in his hands. The man wore plain clothes and had a handsome appearance. His brows were gentle, and he had a head of long silver hair. His expression was gentle and warm. Tu Qianjue, the core successor of the Heaven and Earth Dao Court, ranked 9th on the All Heavens King Saint ranking. Besides Jin Di, there are a few special figures amongst the number 1 experts of the various provinces. For example, the number 1 expert of the Copper Prefecture, Xian Zhuyin. If I'm not wrong, he's definitely a disciple of the Xian clan. On an ancient tree, a graceful figure stood on an emerald green branch. Her body was covered in clouds, her beautiful hair was coiled into a bun, her body was clear as ice, and there was a strange golden Tao marking branded between her brows. Wisps of dreamy and hazy misty luster lingered around her slender body, giving off a mysterious and refined feeling. Misty Rain, the core successor of the black-yellow celestial court, ranked 7th on the All Heavens King Sage list. Which Xian family? Zhu Feiyu put away the wine gourd and asked in surprise. Is there any other Xian family in the All Heavens that is worthy of our attention? Yenuro's voice was like the tinkling of a jade pendant, as pleasant as the sounds of nature. I never expected that such a low-profile and mysterious ancient imperial clan would actually send a disciple to participate in this Tao discussion gathering. Tu Qianju aside. It's not just Xian Zhuyin. Some of the monstrous geniuses who previously disdained to participate in the grand Tao discussion couldn't help but show up as well. For example, Yu Ruhua and Ji Bai. Both Zhu Feiyu and Tu Qianjue were stunned when they heard Yen Yuro's name. Then, they narrowed their eyes. Let's go. Numerous unexpected and ferocious figures are bound to appear during the Tao discussion this time. Misty Rain's figure was hazy. She floated down the branch and headed towards the depths of the mountain gate. Isn't that even better? If there are no accidents, how can there be any surprises? Zhu Feiyu patted the sword on his back, laughed, and strode away. Surprise? Could also be a shock. Tu Qianjue let out a long sigh and followed. Within Qingmong Divine Mountain, on the peak of a mountain that was suffused with primal chaos qi, there stood an ancient palace made of godly metal. Under the sunlight, it exuded a sacred and solemn aura. Many great figures had gathered within the hall since a long time ago. Merely based on appearance alone, there were men and women, young and old, but all of them were at the Emperor realm. Every single one of them had countless legendary stories. Every one of them was enough to shake the entire starry sky. Kong Zhao is too impudent. I hope Brother Grand Uncle won't laugh at him. An old man from the primordial Tao court spoke with a bitter smile. He wore a Taoist robe and had sparse hair, and he seemed like an old man in the village who had one foot in the grave. But in the starry sky, he had a title that caused the hearts of all living beings to tremble, Jueying Battle Emperor. At the seat of honor in the hall, Taishu Hong, who had a refined bearing and a handsome appearance, said with a smile, "This kid, Kong Zhao, has indeed shown off his ability and is arrogant and haughty. He has offended all the young people of the other prefectures earlier." Of course, this was a joke. As the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Taoist court, a well-known figure in the world, Taishu Hong would not care about such a trivial matter. "Can you see the origin of Jin Dui?" Suddenly, a red-clothed woman spoke. She sat there, flaming fishes surging from her body, swimming about her in a lifelike manner. Upon closer inspection, each of the flaming fish was shockingly formed from the interweaving of Supreme Emperor Realm laws. She was the Fire Emperor of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court. An empress who had proved herself in ancient times had a cold temperament and was decisive in killing. She fought in the heavens and killed with great power. The cultivation and means used by this kid are all mysterious. But if you look carefully, you can't find any clues. Maybe he comes from other worlds in the starry sky. Someone muttered, "Jin Di, this name is really overbearing." Someone laughed and teased, and many Emperor Realm figures laughed with him. Xia Xinglie, who had been sitting on one side drinking, felt a lot relieved. Fortunately, these old things, like himself, were also deceived by this kid. Sure enough, soon, no one paid attention to Lin Sun anymore. It was impossible for these Emperor Realm figures present to pay attention to the younger generation. The reason why they talked about Kong Zhao and Lin Sun before was that they were attracted by the battle between the two outside the mountain gate. Everyone, the curtains to the Tao discussion grand meeting will be drawn in 10 days, and the gazes of the all heavens will be gathered here. I'd like to seize this opportunity to discuss some matters related to the Tao discussion grand meeting with everyone. Sitting in the seat of honor, Taishu Hong opened his mouth, and his words made the atmosphere in the hall quiet. Outside the mountain gate, it didn't take long for the strong people from the 48 continents of the primordial world to arrive one after another. Even the practitioners of the Black-Yellow Taoist court appeared and led the people present into the mountain gate. Inside the mountain gate there was a world of its own. The mountains were beautiful, the world was picturesque, and the chaotic air fell like a waterfall from the sky. Between the mountains and rivers, there were rows of ancient palaces, and rainbow cableways connected to the mountains located in various places. There were spiritual birds and divine beasts walking, and there were exotic flowers and plants. Even the air was as rich as a sweet spring. Walking in it was like entering a pure land of immortals and coming to the country where the gods lived. Lin Sun and other dazzling figures from various provinces had seen many blessed places since they started their cultivation. Their vision and experience were extremely rich. But when they arrived here, they still had a feeling of confusion and shock in their hearts. This was Qingmong Mountain, the place where the black-yellow Taoist court, one of the 6 major Taoist courts, was a holy land that all the practitioners in the world yearned for. Along the way, Lin Sun and others would have been lost in it if they hadn't been led. Because this expanse of the heavens and the earth was simply comparable to a world, and it was filled with paradises that were scattered all over like the stars in the sky. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, vast and magnificent. In the end, Lin Sun and others were arranged to stay on a mountain called Tianyi. This mountain was tens of thousands of meters high, towering and majestic. There were courtyards on it, like a long winding dragon, distributed on it. Lin Sun and other strong practitioners of Cloud State were arranged in a row of courtyards halfway up the mountain. Everyone, the grand meeting of Tao discussion will be held in the black-yellow main peak 10 days later. At that time, someone will come to pick you up. During this period, if there is nothing else, please don't leave this place. The strong practitioner of the black-yellow Taoist court, who led Lin Sun and others here, warned them and then turned away. Until now, Guanxu seemed to feel a lot more relaxed. He sighed with a complicated expression. Compared with the black-yellow Taoist court, all the orthodoxies in our Cloud State are not enough. He was the leader of the first orthodoxy in Cloud State. In Cloud State, he was also an existence that all living beings could look up to. But since he came to the black-yellow Taoist court, he had a sense of restraint and awe that he didn't even dare to breathe. Lin Sun, Lu Dubu and others also sighed with emotion. The black-yellow Taoist court was really amazing. Every blade of grass and tree that could be seen everywhere here were all rare treasures in the outside world. The blessed places distributed here were even more amazing. There were chaotic spiritual veins that were enough to make people in the Emperor realm interested, and they were covered with ancient traces of Tao. It was no exaggeration to say that even a pig who cultivated in such a rare blessed place in the world might be able to prove its Tao and become a sage. It's not that we are inferior to the people of the 6 Taoist courts. It's just that the cultivation resources they have are not comparable to us at all. Wang Tu sighed. Others also sighed for a while. Why were the descendants of the 6 Taoist courts so powerful? Just from the atmosphere of the black-yellow Taoist court, some clues could be seen. Lin Sun said, cultivation resources are only part of it. In the final analysis, the pursuit of Tao depends on one's own ability. If one's state of mind is not strong enough, experience is not enough, and will is not strong enough, even if there are great resources, he is doomed to achieve nothing. Many people were stunned, and then they revealed contemplative expressions. Guanxu nodded and said, "You're right. However, a power like the dark yellow Tao court has definitely gone through layer upon layer of selection and tests when they recruit disciples, and the people they choose are definitely outstanding talents that are 1 in a million. Only in this way would their disciples be so dazzling, and only then would the dark yellow Tao court possess the foundation it has today." After chatting for a while, everyone dispersed and returned to their own courtyards. What they saw and heard today was an unprecedented experience for them. Moreover, the Tao discussion conference would begin in 10 days, and they also needed time to prepare. In a courtyard, Lin Sun walked into one of the rooms, sat cross-legged on the ground, and began to meditate. His state of mind was not affected from beginning to end. Indeed, this was the black-yellow Taoist court, the pilgrimage place in the hearts of all the practitioners in the world. There were countless Emperor realm legends. It was even very likely that there was an ancestor of Tao. But so what? Lin Sun knew very well that the purpose of his coming here was the Tao discussion conference. In his palm, a jade slip emerged. Lin Sun probed into it with his spiritual awareness and began to meditate. This jade slip was the cultivation experience of Senior Xian Kong after he proved his Tao and became a saint. It gathered his painstaking efforts and secrets to become invincible in the saint realm. For other practitioners, It was impossible to comprehend the contents recorded in this jade slip at all, because it involved the road of Tao that had never existed since ancient times, which was too difficult to understand. But for Lin Sun, when he was comprehending this jade slip, it was like meeting a once-in-a-lifetime confidant on the road of Tao. What was recorded in it made him feel regretful that he hadn't met Xian Kong earlier. It turns out that Senior Xian Kong was also confused about the Tao field. After a long time, Lin Sun's black eyes lit up. He read some insights and experiences about Xian Kong condensing the Tao field. One more update. The goldfish had not been able to complete the update before midnight. It was equivalent to the goldfish going back on its word once. It was here to apologize to everyone. Goldfish didn't stop updating before and after his marriage, but he made mistakes in updating. It was indeed because there were many trivial things in life. Chapter 2028. What was the extreme? There was nothing he wouldn't do. This was the mystery that Xian Kong comprehended when he condensed the field of Tao. Using every conceivable means not to act recklessly, but to use all of one's strength to the extreme. Lin Sun murmured, "What an extreme!" Cultivators took care of the three paths of body refining, chi refining, and soul refining, which could be regarded as cultivation. In addition, there was also the state of mind, will, and wisdom. If all these forces could be deduced to the extreme and integrated into the field of Tao, how terrifying would that power be? Next, Lin Sun was immersed in meditation, unaware of the passage of time. 10 days later, in the early morning. Taoism friends from Qingzhou, please come with me. Taoism friends from Mingzhou, please come with me. Taoism friends from Mingzhou, please come with me. Voices resounded throughout the lone sky peak. A group of descendants of dark yellow Taoism court appeared in the void in the distance. They came to receive the strong cultivators from various provinces. Because today was the day of the Tao discussion conference. In the cave residence, Lin Sun, who was meditating cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. 10 days of meditation on the jade slip left by senior brother Xian Kong is equivalent to a great fortune. Lin Sun put his hands behind his back and walked out of the cave residence. Outside the cave residence, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, and others had already gathered. Go, whether you succeed or fail. It's enough as long as you don't fail what you have learned. Guan Su looked solemn and exhorted. He was just a guide, and the task of this trip had been completed. Next, it was up to Lin Sun and others' performance. Thank you for taking care of us all the way. Lin Sun and others all saluted him. Although Guan Su was the leader of the Great Void Taoism sect, he had no sectarian bias. He took great care of them along the way, which made them respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Let's go. One of the descendants of dark yellow Taoism court, who was in charge of receiving them, rose into the air and flew away with Lin Sun and others. Brother Jean, I heard that the Tao discussion this time will be held in the Skyrth secret realm. After a series of battles, only 108 people will emerge from the competition, and the others will be eliminated. They won't have the chance to head to the ancient, immortal restricted area to compete for fortune. On the way, Lu Dubu suddenly transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. I have discussed with Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, Su Muhan and Ling Xiujia that we will become allies after entering the Xianhuang secret realm. I wonder if Brother Jean and Miss Xianyue are interested in joining us? Lin Sun was in a daze, but he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pondered and asked, what about Wu Huang, Tingyi Chen, and Gai Shanxing? Lu Dubu said, Wu Huang and the other two have formed an alliance. Lin Sun said, well, when we enter the Xianhuang secret realm, if there's a chance to act together, Miss Xianyue and I will not refuse. Lu Dubu cheerfully nodded. That would be the best. While they were talking, Lin Sun and the others had arrived at an ancient and beautiful mountain peak and landed on a spacious platform. So many. Wang Tu looked around. There were already hundreds and thousands of figures gathered near the platform. Among them, the cultivators from other states were arranged in the same area, while the geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky were distributed in another area. In addition, the cultivators from the 6 major Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and the other Central Plains Taoist states were gathered in another area. It was like a tripartite confrontation. When Lin Sun and the others arrived, they attracted a lot of attention. "Look, that guy is Jindi. When he arrived at Qingmong Divine Mountain 10 days ago, he made Kong Zhao suffer a small loss. He doesn't look like anything special. This is what it means to hide your strength." Many discussions revolved around Lin Sun. Even the geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky and the descendants of the 6 major Tao courts had their eyes on Lin Sun. Kong Zhao was ranked 5th on the All Heavens King Sage list. He had been famous in the starry sky for a long time, but 10 days ago, he was injured by Lin Sun. Although it was a small injury, it still attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, when Lin Sun appeared, it attracted a lot of attention and discussion. In the camp of the primitive Tao court, Kong Zhao's expression was uncertain, and there was an unspeakable anger in his heart. The more attention Lin Sun received, the more he felt humiliated. "Boy, does it feel good to be the center of attention? Don't worry, when we enter the Xian Wang secret realm, I will kill you." He transmitted his voice coldly, not concealing his killing intent. Lin Sun glanced at him calmly and didn't pay attention to him anymore. "Jindi, we meet again." Soon, someone transmitted his voice again. Lin Sun looked up and saw Zhuanshu Heng in a purple robe in the camp of the Universe Taoist court looking at him. Zhuanshu Heng's expression was very calm, and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. He said, "Last time in the Xuanji Taoist sect in Yunzhou, I lost a treasure to you. This time, I want to win back 3. Lin Sun had a good impression of this person. He was open and aboveboard, and even if they were enemies, he was an enemy worthy of respect. He thought for a moment and said, "I can give you a chance, but if you lose again, don't bother me anymore." Zhuanshu Heng's expression froze. This guy's tone was still as arrogant as before. "All right." He took a deep breath and agreed with gritted teeth. Soon, Lin Sun saw some familiar figures. For example, Hua Xingli from the Demon's Court, Tang Su from the Frenzy Blade Battle Clan, and Ling Kezi from the ancient Southern Temple. Hua Xingli's white hair was like snow, hanging down to his waist. His face was handsome and enchanting. Back then, on the ascension platform of the 3 forbidden areas of Kunlun ruins, he had also performed the ascension ceremony at the Saint Realm, causing an astonishing phenomenon. Tang Su from the Frenzy Blade Battle Clan was an extremely heroic and carefree woman. She was dressed in a black robe, and her body was whiter than sheep fat, glowing with a crystal-clear luster. Ling Kezi from the ancient Southern Temple was a charmingly naive little monk. As long as he saw Lin Sun, he would cower in fear. Apart from them, Lin Sun also saw Chunyu Go, who he had met once in the Immortal Peach secret realm of Kunlun ruins. It was said that he came from the Chunyu clan. There were also some familiar figures that he had seen in the Kunlun ruins, but Lin Sun did not know their names. However, there was no doubt that anyone who could participate in the Tao discussion was destined to be extraordinary. Those are the monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky. There are so many of them. There are more than 500 of them. A burst of discussion attracted Lin Sun's attention. However, when he looked at the monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky, he did not recognize a single one of them. This was normal. One had to know how vast the starry sky ancient path was. There were countless worlds in just the 9 major galaxies. It had been less than 10 years since Lin Sun entered the starry sky ancient path, so he was destined to not know too many things. However, he also knew that since these monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky were qualified to participate in the Tao discussion, their strength was destined to be extraordinary. Ling Hongzhuang is here. Suddenly, someone cried out. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings stopped, and all of them shot their gazes towards the same direction in unison. In the distance, a wisp of fiery red light flowed, and then Yen Er transformed into a delicate and exquisite figure. She wore black clothes while her jet black and beautiful hair was combed into a braid that fluttered behind her, and it revealed a peerless appearance that was aloof and icy cold. As she arrived, many people's expressions became solemn. Ling Hongzhuang, the core successor of the Yellow Heaven Court, had firmly occupied the third place on the King's Sage list in less than 100 years, attracting the admiration of countless heroes. Huangfu Xiaonong, I'm here. Why don't you show yourself? After Ling Hongzhuang appeared, she directly ignored the gazes of the people present and spoke indifferently. Haha, I've been here for a long time. It's just that you, Ling Hongzhuang, don't care about me. A burst of clear laughter rang out, and then a handsome man in a bright yellow battle robe appeared in the field. His figure was as straight as a spear, and his eyes were bright. Every move he made seemed to have a transcendent demeanor of overlooking the mountains and rivers, and smiling at all living beings. With his appearance, there was another commotion in the field. Huangfu Xiaonong, the core figure of the Heaven and Earth Taoist Court, the second on the King's Sage list. In the era before Mi Wei arose, he was the most respected person on the King's Sage list. For a moment, almost all eyes in the field were attracted by Ling Hongzhuang and Huangfu Xiaonong. This was prestige. In contrast, Lin Sun's disguise as Jin Di was only famous within the Cloud Prefecture. Ling Hongzhuang and Huangfu Xiaonong were both famous throughout the primordial world, and were dazzling existences known by all. The only one who could overshadow them was perhaps Mi Wei, who was ranked first on the King's Sage list. Where's brother Mi Wei? Why don't I see him? Someone asked. Many gazes looked towards the Panwu Dao Court's camp because Mi Wei was the core successor of the Panwu Dao Court. My senior brother Mi is on his way here. A Panwu Dao Court powerhouse spoke indifferently with a faintly discernible pride. Senior brother Mi Wei was not here, but no one could ignore his existence. This was because he was a legend, an overlord who had dominated the first place on the King's Sage list for 600 years, and no one could shake him to this day. Suddenly, someone said, "Humph, Mi Wei is getting more and more arrogant." This sentence stunned the Panwu Dao Court powerhouses, and their expressions darkened. Someone actually dared to speak disrespectfully to Mi Wei on such an occasion. Everyone present was also shocked. Soon, they saw the person who spoke. It was a man with a stalwart figure. His robes fluttered, and his hands were behind his back. When they looked at him, many people felt a piercing pain in their eyes. It was as if they were looking at a peerless divine sword that pierced through the clouds, dazzling the world. Many people were baffled. Who was this person? Only a small group of people narrowed their eyes. Yu Ruhua. He really came. When Lin Sun looked at this person, he could not help but feel surprise. What a tyrannical aura! It was not inferior to Ling Hongzhuang and Huangfu Xiaonong. It's not that he's getting more and more arrogant. It's just that we haven't appeared in the world for too long, a feminine voice rang out. Then, a black demon chi spread out like a mist, and a dignified figure walked out. His clothes were whiter than snow, and he was untainted by a speck of dust. Chapter 2029. Ji Bai. A unique name that was almost unknown, a peerless figure who was silent in the devil-suppressing blood well. Ji Bai guarded the darkness. His divinity surged into the light, and he walked in the darkness. When they saw Ji Bai, many people were stunned and confused. However, Ling Hongzhuang, Huangfu Xiaonong, Zhuanshuheng, and the others immediately recognized Ji Bai's identity. Following that, their pupils constricted at the same time. Whether it was Ji Bai or Yu Ruhua, they were monstrous figures who ignored the affairs of the world but had extremely terrifying resources. Fame and wealth were like fleeting clouds to them, and the only obsession in their hearts was the great Tao. If I hadn't come to this Tao discussion grand meeting, I really wouldn't have known that there are so many powerful figures in this world. At this moment, Lin Sun could not help but sigh. In his perception, besides Ling Hongzhuang, Huangfu Xiaonong, Ji Bai Yuruhua, and the others, there were some other extremely powerful auras. Some were distributed among the monstrous figures of the other worlds in the starry sky. Some were distributed among the camps of the 6 Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and the other central plains. This made Lin Sun realize that in this unnoticed place, there were also ruthless figures that could not be underestimated. Even after waiting for a long time, Mi Wuya did not appear. But no one thought that Mi Wuya would not come. Dang! Dang! A melodious bell rang, as if coming from the 9 heavens, causing the atmosphere to become silent. This mountain was called Heaven's Yellow, and it was the main peak of the Heaven's Yellow Tao Court. The place where Lin Sun and the other powerhouses gathered was on a huge platform halfway up the mountain. At this moment, as the melodious bell rang, figures suddenly appeared on the main peak of Heaven's Yellow. Every figure seemed to be far away in the sky, giving people a supreme feeling that they could only look up to. But their auras were everywhere, like gods sitting high up in the 9 heavens, overlooking the world. The one in the lead was the sect master of the Heaven's Yellow Tao Court, a great figure who could deter the heavens. Beside him were the primeval Tao Court's Jian Battle Emperor, the Qiankuan Tao Court's Fire Spirit Emperor, the Panwu Tao Court's Cloudrock Wind Emperor, and the Demon's Tao Court's Burning Sky Demon Emperor. The 5 martial emperors represented the might of the 5 major Tao Court. Other than the most mysterious Guiyuan Court, all the important figures of the 6 major Tao courts were present. Behind the 5 martial emperors, there were martial emperors from the 10 war clans, primordial imperial clans, and other terrifying forces. Extreme Demon Sword Emperor Xia Xinglia was also among them. There were over 20 martial emperors, and they were like numerous supreme gods that had descended into the world. Such a magnificent scene caused Lin Sun and all the other experts that were participating in the Tao discussion to be shocked, and they gasped. Emperor Realm! They illuminated the heavens and intimidated the universe. They were like supreme sovereigns. Normally, it was impossible to see any traces of them. However, a group of great emperors suddenly appeared. Merely such a scene had practically never occurred in the primordial world throughout the ages. This clearly showed how much importance the terrifying powers throughout the universe attached to the Tao discussion. The scene was silent and solemn, and the heavens and the earth seemed to have stopped. The dark yellow Tao Court's sect master, Taishu Hong, spoke indifferently. There's no need for me to elaborate on the significance of the Tao discussion this time. All of you just have to remember that all of us martial emperors are present during the Tao discussion this time, and we'll naturally not allow anything that violates the rules to occur. His voice rumbled like the sonorous voice of the Grand Tao, and it resounded in the hearts of every single expert. There are a total of 1,849 experts participating in the Tao discussion grand meeting this time around. Amongst them, there are 480 experts from the other prefectures, 816 experts from the Central Earth Prefecture, and 553 experts from the other worlds in the starry sky. Next, all of you will enter the dark yellow secret realm together to undergo the selection. As he spoke, Taishu Hong flicked his sleeve. Bang! An enormous vortex door suddenly appeared in the sky above the enormous platform that Lin Sun and the others were on, and it flowed with a primordial and boundless aura. The dark yellow secret realm is behind the door, and it's the unknown place that Azurelight Divine Mountain has preserved the best until now. Before all of you enter the dark yellow secret realm, every single one of you will bring along a life talisman. After you enter, all of you can fight and kill at will and seize the life talismans of others. Remember, the more life talismans you seize, the higher your results in the selection will be. Those whose life talismans are seized don't have to worry about the risk of being killed, because you'll be teleported out of the dark yellow secret realm, at the first possible moment before you're killed. Many people heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts when they heard this. So long as they didn't have to worry about death, then they didn't have to worry about anything in the selection this time. Right, all the participants of the Tao discussion this time are top-rate and dazzling figures in the world, so it's bound to be impossible to allow death to occur. Otherwise, the loss from the selection would be too great. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. There's no time limit for the selection of the dark yellow secret realm this time, and the selection will end when only 108 people remain. Taishu Hong's voice continued resounding. 108 people. The hearts of Lin Sun and all the other experts trembled. Everyone had a premonition that an extremely crazy and bloody battle was bound to play out in the dark yellow secret realm. It was too crazy. After all, there were an entire 1,849 people participating in the Tao discussion this time, yet only 108 people were able to win in the selection of the dark yellow secret realm. How cruel was this competition? Remember, you're not allowed to utilize Emperor artifacts, forbidden secret techniques, or any external forces in the dark yellow secret realm. Every single action of yours will be watched by me and all the other fellow Taoists in the Emperor realm. No matter who breaks the rules, kill them. Kill them all. The last 3 words caused the bodies of countless people to stiffen while their expressions changed. Who would dare to violate the rules while being watched by all the great emperors? At this moment, Lin Sun finally understood why Lu Dubu would take the initiative to propose to form an alliance with him on the way here. Obviously, Lu Dubu knew the inside story of the selection since a long time ago, so he'd started preparing long ago. In this way, it could be inferred that the 1,800-plus dazzling figures present here had probably formed countless alliances in secret. At this moment, Lin Sun felt pressured as well. He wasn't afraid of anyone, but if he was targeted and attacked by a group of people, then the situation was bound to become extremely serious. After the selection of the dark yellow secret realm, the 108 people that stand out will be qualified to enter the ancient immortal forbidden area. I believe all of you are very clear about what it means to enter the ancient immortal forbidden area. As soon as these words were spoken, there was another uproar in the surroundings. The ancient immortal forbidden area, one of the 8 great forbidden areas of the primordial world. It was rumored that a mysterious and unfathomable chaotic treasure was born in it, and whoever obtained it would be able to obtain a supreme treasure that wasn't inferior to the dark yellow tablet. Whoever obtained it would be able to possess the foundation to establish a Tao court. This was the reason why the Tao discussion this time had attracted the attention of all the people in the world. If it wasn't for this, it would be impossible for so many Emperor Realm figures to gather here in this Tao discussion. Now all of you can take action. As soon as Taishu Hong's voice fell, a strange and obscure ripple suddenly appeared on the vortex door that appeared on the huge platform. The figures of Lin Sun, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, and the other 1849 experts who were originally standing on the platform were all wrapped by a layer of obscure power and rushed into the vortex door. In just a few breaths, the platform was empty. All the experts who had participated in the Tao discussion conference had disappeared. In the end, no one noticed whether Mi Wuya, who had dominated the All Heavens King Sage ranking for 800 years, had arrived or not. If he had, where was he? At the peak of the dark yellow secret realm, in front of an ancient hall made of divine iron. Taishu Hong smiled and said, "Fellow Taoists, the dark yellow secret realm is an unknown place that has been preserved the best. It is somewhat similar to the ancient immortal forbidden area, and the selection there will be great benefits for the young people who emerge victorious." The Emperor Realm experts nodded. Buzz. Taishu Hong raised his hand and pointed. The outline of a huge world suddenly appeared in the distant void. It was like a scroll that slowly unfolded in the air. The great emperors turned to look at him. What was reflected in the scroll was the dark yellow secret realm. It was indeed a mysterious world that was filled with an ancient and primitive aura. From the outside world, one could clearly see the mountains and rivers of this world, as well as the figures of more than 1,000 experts who had been sent to participate in the Tao discussion. If nothing goes wrong, this selection will probably last for a long time. We can take this opportunity to sit down and discuss and exchange ideas. As Taishu Hong spoke, he had already given orders to set up tables and cushions on the mountain peak. He invited the Emperor Realm experts to take a seat one by one. Speaking of which, does Brother Taishu know what the chaos treasure that was born in the ancient immortal forbidden area is? Someone immediately asked. It's hard to say. Taishu Hong sighed softly. The ancient immortal forbidden area is an unknown and dangerous place that even Emperor Realm experts do not dare to enter. If that's the case, the treasure that was born in it is bound to be extraordinary. Why did I hear that the treasure that was born in the ancient immortal forbidden area is a mysterious gourd filled with chaos chi? Gourd? Not necessarily. I heard that it's a pitch-black vase. Isn't it said that it's an ancient vine that covers the sky? While the Emperor Realm experts were discussing, they were also paying attention to the movements in the dark yellow secret realm. No one was careless. Father, didn't you say that Brother Lin will participate in this? Where is he? Xia Xiaochong sat beside Xia Xinglia. Her clear big eyes were staring at the picturesque light screen of the world, searching carefully. Wisps of obscure power covered her and Xia Xinglia's figures. This was Xia Xinglia's method, so that the other Emperor Realm experts wouldn't hear it. Xia Xinglia didn't answer the question. He smiled and said, Xiaochong, you saw so many amazing people just now. Is there anyone that you like? Tell me, I'll give you some advice. Xia Xiaochong suddenly became anxious. Chapter 20:30. Dad, don't you know that no matter how good those people are, I don't like them? Xia Xiaochong said angrily. She wished she could bite this playful father of hers. Xia Xinglia tried to hold back his laughter and said, but I feel that Jin Di is very good. Listen to his name, unique and domineering. Seeing that Xia Xiaochong was so angry that she was about to cry, Xia Xinglia didn't dare to tease her anymore. He said hurriedly, Okay, I was just joking with you. Xia Xiaochong blinked her eyes pitifully and said, Dad, you should tell me whether Brother Lin is in the Tao discussion conference or not, right? Yes. Xia Xinglia answered without hesitation. Xia Xiaochong's clear and dark eyes suddenly lit up, and her whole body glowed with a kind of amazing spirit. She said, Where is he? Xia Xinglia felt a wave of jealousy in his heart. Was this girl bewitched? Why was she always thinking about that brat? How could he, the dignified demon sword emperor, endure this? You will know when the Tao discussion conference is over. After a while, Xia Xiaochong said weakly. Even so, Xia Xiaochong was already very satisfied. She held her little face and stared at the light screen that projected the scene of the black-yellow mystic realm. Full of longing, she said, When I see Big Brother Lin soon, I must invite him to our great Tao Nine Heavens Palace as a guest. Xia Xinglia was stunned and became more and more powerless. Dad, don't you still have a bottle of divine light wine? I will take it to entertain Brother Lin. When hearing this, Xia Xinglia's mouth twitched fiercely. This wicked girl began to plan to rob her father's property for that boy. Really, a grown girl was useless. Xia Xinglia was full of sadness and worry. If this went on, what should he do in the future? Black-yellow secret realm. Lin felt dizzy. The scene in front of him changed, and then he appeared in a canyon. Swish! The broken blade suddenly swept out and wandered around Lin's body, looking around vigilantly. After confirming that there was no danger, he felt a lot more relaxed. He turned over his palm, and a jade talisman appeared. It was polished from a strange cyan animal bone, and was branded with earthworm-like patterns of Tao. This was the life talisman. Once they lost it, they would be eliminated from the competition. Putting away the life talisman, Lin Sun didn't hurry to act. He was the only one near the canyon, so at least he was safe for the time being. The more life talismans I have, the more battles I have to experience. Even if I don't kill people, they will definitely kill me, Lin Sun pondered. If it was a one-on-one battle, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. But there were bound to be a lot of people like Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua, and the others who formed an alliance and acted together. Lin Sun had to be vigilant, especially people like Ling Hongzhuang and Huangfu Xiaonong. If they worked together, they would definitely be a huge threat. After a long time, Lin Sun made a decision. With a flick of his sleeve, he began to move around the canyon. The array flags that he carried on his body poured out like a torrent of water, inserting themselves into different areas of the canyon. After a short moment, a Dao marking restriction formation suddenly took form. Hide! As Lin Sun made a gesture, this obscure and inexplicable formation suddenly disappeared between heaven and earth. Even a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, let alone a human? Lin Sun clapped his hands and thought to himself, even if there is a danger, at least there is a place for me to hide. For Lin Sun, the most terrible thing in this Xianhuang secret realm was not how strong the opponent was, but getting injured in the battle. Once injured, even powerful figures like Ling Hongzhuang and Huangfu Xiaonong would be targeted by countless people. After all, practically all those that were able to participate in the Dao discussion this time were top figures in the Peak Saint King realm. All of them were extraordinary figures that had attained perfection in their realms of cultivation, so the gap in combat strength between them wasn't great. If these people were to join hands and move together, it was easy to imagine how great the threat would be. Lin Sun set up the formation here to take precautions in advance, so as to avoid being hunted down and having nowhere to hide when encountering any dangerous situation. Next, I have to meet with Xian Yu as soon as possible. If I can form an alliance with Lu Dubu, it will be a safe way. No matter what, I should be careful in the next action. If I meet an opponent, I will kill him if I can. If I can't, I will escape immediately. While thinking, Lin Sun's figure flashed and he flew into the distance. On the main peak of Xianhuang, Taishu Hong and other emperors were paying attention to the movements in the Xianhuang secret realm. Before, they all thought that their descendants were extraordinary and there was nothing to worry about. But after careful observation, they found that all those who participated in this Tao discussion conference were extremely shrewd and ruthless. Each of them had many incredible means, and none of them was easy to deal with. For example, after entering the Xianhuang secret realm, someone immediately released a group of puppets to help explore the way. Someone's figure turned illusory, turning into a sky full of sand and dust, disappearing without a trace. Some of them controlled poisonous insects that were like a tidal wave. These young people are much stronger than us in the past. They are all very skillful. Some emperors sighed with a smile. On the road to the Great Way, the new generation naturally surpasses the old. Look, there is someone who turned into a river and integrated into the world of the Xianhuang secret realm. That kid is amazing. He just entered the Xianhuang secret realm and killed a person and obtained the first life talisman. Who is he? I don't know. He seems to be a little genius from another world. These emperors chatted and laughed in a relaxed manner. Some people noticed Lin Sun's method of setting up the formation and couldn't help but comment, "This kid is clever." He prepared a way out for himself. At this, Xia Xinglie, who was drinking, put down his cup and said, "This kid is not only clever. If nothing goes wrong, he will definitely be one of the 108 places to enter the ancient immortal forbidden zone." At this, many emperors were stunned, because they could see that Jin Di was not a famous person from any ancient orthodoxy. He was only the first in the Tao discussion conference in Cloud State. But now, Ultimate Demon Sword Emperor seemed to treat such a young man differently. Don't tell me it's because he injured Kong Zhao in front of the mountain gate? Someone teased. This made Zhuiying Emperor of Wilderness Dao Court frown. He looked at Xia Xinglie and asked, "Do you really think so?" "Of course," Xia Xinglie said casually. "I'm not targeting your wilderness Dao court. I just want to say that Jin Di is far more powerful than you think. If you don't believe me, just wait and see." He said this because he had considered that if Lin Sun's performance was too amazing, at least the emperors present would not be too surprised. Otherwise, it would definitely attract the attention of many old things. Maybe it would cause some trouble for Lin Sun. After all, no matter how heaven-defying the disguise method was, how could it be flawless if it was targeted by emperors? Zhuang Emperor was a little unhappy. He felt that Xia Xinglie was targeting Kong Zhao and his wilderness Dao court. But because of the identity of Ultimate Demon Sword Emperor, he couldn't say anything more. It should be known that Xia Xinglie was temperamental. Once he was angry, no matter what the Tao discussion conference, no one could stop him. Only Xia Xiaochong looked suspicious. Why did father pay so much attention to Jin Di? Was he Brother Lin in disguise? Thinking of this, she also began to pay attention to Jin Di. Noticing this, Xia Xinglie couldn't help but sigh in his heart. "Look, this is my daughter. How smart is she?" Not long after they left the canyon. Boom, a wave of battle came from afar. Lin Sun almost immediately activated his Bai Qi. His entire body turned transparent, and his aura was all covered. He quietly approached. In the blood-red wilderness in the distance there was a great battle. On one side there were 5 people, and on the other side there were 2 people. They used their Tao skills and fought fiercely. For a moment, the world changed color, and divine light roared. These were the dazzling figures from the various provinces of the primordial world. Each of them was a top expert, and when they fought, their destructive power was amazing. However, the mysterious yellow secret realm was extremely mysterious. Between the mountains and rivers, there was an unknown and obscure power of order, making the destructive power of this fierce battle far less than imagined. In the outside world, the battle between Zhuang Saint Kings could easily burn mountains and boil seas, and destroy magnificent mountains and rivers. But in the mysterious yellow secret realm, it was difficult to shake the mountains. This was the difference in the order of heaven and earth. Everyone, stop fighting. There are at least a dozen experts hiding in the nearby area. If you continue fighting, you will only benefit from it. In the fierce battle, a man in a black robe shouted. What? More than a dozen? The others were shocked. No one knew how big the mysterious yellow secret realm was. They thought that it was just a fierce battle, and no opponents would be attracted in a short period of time. Who would have thought that there would be people hiding in ambush? Whoosh, they spread out their divine senses to sense and investigate. But at this moment, the man in a black robe who spoke first suddenly laughed. Soul extinguishing lamp, rise. In his hand, a purple octagonal palace lantern flew out. The wick swayed, and it suddenly released a dazzling divine rainbow of flame. The divine senses that the experts released were instantly bound by flame shackles and burned fiercely. Many people's vision darkened, and their divine souls were in pain. They let out muffled groans. Oh no, this is a secret treasure that targets the divine soul. Damn it, this kid is cheating. Loud shouts rang out. These experts were all extremely dazzling existences, but at this moment they all chose to escape without hesitation. Do you think you can escape? The man in a black robe laughed loudly. The purple octagonal palace lantern floated above his head. His figure flickered, and he suddenly slashed out with his saber. Whoosh, one person could not escape in time and was enveloped by the blazing saber aura. Just as he was about to die, the void tumbled, and this person was brought out of the mysterious yellow secret realm. A green life talisman that originally belonged to this person also fell, and the man in a black robe grabbed it in his hand. He did not stop at all, and he laughed loudly as he attacked another expert. The purple octagonal palace lantern above his head spun, and it released a divine rainbow of flame that stuck firmly to the experts' bodies. It was like chains that bound their divine souls, and they could not be shaken off. Chapter 20:31. In the following time, the black-robed man successively defeated 4 opponents with the mysterious power of a purple octagonal palace lantern. The most outrageous thing was that one of the strong people who acted with him was also suppressed by him. Before the 4 people were killed, they were taken out of the mysterious yellow secret realm by a force of void teleportation, leaving one life talisman after another. It's a pity that I couldn't keep all of them here. The black-robed man smacked his lips regretfully, and then his face changed slightly. Who? As he spoke, he had already turned into a black shadow and rushed to the distance. He actually escaped directly. But halfway, the black-robed man was stopped. A tall figure appeared in front of him and stretched out a hand. "Give me your life talisman, and I can let you be eliminated with dignity." This person was naturally Lin Sun. The black-robed man's expression was uncertain. He really didn't expect that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Taking a deep breath, he showed a kind smile and said, "I know you, your name is Jindi, from Yunzhou, boom." Before he finished speaking, Lin Sun suddenly raised his right hand and chopped down fiercely, as if he was lifting an ancient divine mountain and throwing it out. What a ruthless guy! The black-robed man's heart skipped a beat. He realized that he had met someone more ruthless than himself. Without hesitation, he attacked with all his strength. Crack! But in just a moment, he was slapped in the head, and his body was smashed into the depths of the earth like a wooden stake. He saw stars and almost fainted from the pain. The black-robed man said in horror, "Don't kill me, I'll give you all my life talismans." He was shocked. It should be known that he was the #1 person in Yuzhou, but now he couldn't even resist one move. If that was the case, then how terrifying was Jindi? "Do you really think I'm here to talk nonsense with you?" Lin Sun stepped forward and flicked his finger. A wisp of sword chi swept out and pierced the black-robed man's eyebrows. "No!" the black-robed man shouted. The moment he was pierced by the sword chi, he was taken out of the mysterious yellow secret realm and eliminated. Only 5 cyan life talismans were left on the ground, and Lin Sun grabbed them in his hand. "Hurry, it's here. Remember, no matter who you encounter, kill without mercy." Before Lin Sun could leave, there was a sound of breaking the air. In the far distance, a group of figures rushed towards him with murderous intent. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes. There were more than 10 men and women, and they were all supreme figures from the 10 battle clans. There were Blood Qilin Battle Clan, Heaven Ghost Battle Clan, Taowu Battle Clan. This scene reminded Lin Sun of the scene in Kunlun Ruins in a trance. At that time, he had also killed countless strong people. Among them were some of the most ruthless members of the 10 great battle clans, such as Tao Jianxing of the Bayan battle race and Yan Xiu of the Heaven Ghost battle race. Whoosh! Lin Sun moved in the void and turned away. The mysterious Yellow Mystic Realms Dao discussion selection had just begun, and it was not the time to fight to the death yet. Moreover, even if he used his full strength to kill these people, more experts would be attracted over, and he would become the target of all. At that time, the consequences would be dire. Escaped. It's Jindi from the Cloud State. He must have stolen a lot of life talismans. Go after him. Let's go. More than a dozen strong people were aggressive. Seeing Lin Sun escape, they directly chased after him without any intention of stopping. Obviously, Lin Sun's current identity was not enough to make them fear him at all. This was normal. If it were amazing figures like Ling Hongzhuang or Huangfu Xiaonong, they would have chosen to escape at the first moment, not to mention to chase after him. For a moment, the void was filled with dazzling escape lights, and they were incredibly fast, chasing after Lin Sun. Along the way, there were occasionally strong figures. When they saw this scene, they were so scared that they hurriedly fled, not daring to get involved at all. There were also some ruthless people who noticed this scene and secretly followed them. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman benefited. The mantis stalked the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. No matter what kind of situation it was destined to happen frequently in the mysterious yellow mystic realm. However, who would become the prey and who would laugh in the end depended on their ability and luck. Lin Sun was targeted by a group of people as soon as he cheated on them. He was speechless for a while and sighed with emotion at the cruelty and fierceness of this Tao discussion selection. Boom! To Lin Sun's surprise, when he passed through a forest of ancient trees, the forest seemed to come to life and rose from the ground. Countless trees and vines broke through the air and blocked his way. Clatter Lin Sun's body was flowing with misty sword chi. As the sword chi intertwined, it whistled and slashed, smashing countless trees and vines, wood chips and broken leaves into powder. Go to hell! At the same time, in the smoke and dust, a figure rushed out and stabbed at Lin Sun with a spear, like a white rainbow piercing through the sun. This was a thin man in a gray robe with deep eyes and abyss-like breath. When he attacked, his speed was so fast that it almost reached a shocking level. Obviously, he had been lurking here for a long time, waiting for Lin Sun's appearance. He took action without hesitation. Behind him, more than a dozen strong people were chasing him crazily. Lin Sun couldn't help frowning when he saw such an opponent in front of him. A cold, killing intent flashed through his black eyes. He didn't dodge, but jumped forward suddenly, grabbed the spear that was stabbing at him, and exerted strength in his palm and fingers. Bang! The spear was directly in Lin Sun's hand. With a fierce sweep, the man in a gray robe was smashed away. Whoosh! As Lin Sun raised his hand and threw, a spear rushed to the man in a gray robe with unparalleled sharpness. Oh no! The man in a gray robe was shocked. When he was about to dodge, the spear had already reached him, and the terrible and fatal breath covered his whole body. Clatter! A wave of void shifting wrapped the man in a gray robe and disappeared. Obviously, he was also eliminated at this critical moment. But before he left, his face was full of astonishment and unwillingness, and he still couldn't believe it. He was defeated in this way? That guy was just the first in Yunzhou, but why was his combat power so terrible? It's your bad luck to meet me. Lin Sun raised his hand, grabbed the life talisman left by the man in a gray robe, and rushed forward again. What? Xue Jianan was eliminated in one blow? Xue Jianan is a peerless figure from the first world of the major star area. Many people think highly of him. How could he be eliminated like this? Damn it, we underestimated Jin Di's combat power. More than a dozen overmatches who were chasing Lin Sun behind all changed their expressions and gasped. Their figures slowed down. Lin Sun didn't know Xue Jianan, but they did. Xue Jianan was also a famous figure among those peerless figures from other worlds in the starry sky. Who would have thought that he would be defeated in one blow? Do we still chase? Everyone looked at each other. We have attracted many people's attention all the way. Now that Jin Di has shown such terrible power, I think it's better to stop. Someone muttered. Well, let's leave it at that. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Xianhuang secret realm. Just like Jin Di, he is only the first in a state, but he has such terrible combat power. Who would have believed it before? Alas, it's really difficult to stand out in the end. These experts discussed with each other and finally gave up the chase. How about it? Jin Di did well, didn't he? In the outside world, Xia Xingli laughed. The Emperor's stage figures had seen everything that had happened before. Especially when they saw Lin Sun defeat Xue Jianan, a strange look flashed in the depths of Xia Xingli's eyes. After so many years, this young man from the ancient desolation realm had become stronger. That was right. Back then, he was able to cause such a huge commotion in the Kunlun ruins. He was destined to be extraordinary. No matter how good his performance is, wasn't he still chased all the way? The prehistoric Tao Court's Jian Battle Emperor said indifferently. A cold glint flashed in Xia Xinglia's eyes, but he smiled and said, "Speaking of pursuit, everyone, take a look at the Xianhuang mystic realm. That little girl called Ling Hongzhuang chose to act alone. In the end, she was chased by 3 groups of experts. Why? It's because she's too much of a threat. They're worried that she'll join forces with others. If that's the case, who can be her match in this Xianhuang secret realm?" The Black-Yellow Dao Court's sect master, Taishu Hong, smiled bitterly. Ling Hongzhuang was the successor of the Black-Yellow Dao Court. Xia Xinglia's situation was indeed happening. It was not just Ling Hongzhuang. Huangfu Xiaonong, Zhu Feiyu, Yen Yuro, Ying Qianjue, and other peerless figures ranked in the top 10 of the All-Heaven King Sage board would definitely be targeted and attacked if they appeared alone. After all, they were too great a threat. That's why Jin Di's performance is extraordinary, Xia Xinglia said leisurely. Many of the Emperor stage figures present could finally see that the Extreme Demon Sword Emperor obviously favored Jin Di. They could not help but wonder if Jin Di had any relationship with the Extreme Demon Sword Emperor. This selection test is really unimaginably cruel. In a mountain range, after Lin Sun confirmed that no one was following him, he stopped at a mountain peak. He was a little worried about Jintian Xuanyue's safety. Everything that had happened just now had happened in an extremely short period of time. Lin Sun had no doubt that once he was entangled by those people, he would only attract more and more opponents. The most terrible thing was that even if he was on the way to escape, it was very likely that he would be attacked by someone suddenly. No, I must find Miss Xianyue as soon as possible. Otherwise, she, who is alone, will be besieged by many people like me. Lin Sun took a deep breath and began to move again. He operated his qi and moved forward quickly. Along the way, he also met many strong people, but almost all of them were in group. There were at least 3 or 4 people, and at most more than 10 people. Lin Sun did not act rashly. He directly bypassed them. With his current strength, he could leave quietly without alerting the other party. He continued to move forward, after the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. When Lin Sun stood on a rock and checked the road ahead, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his figure suddenly rose into the air at an incredible speed. Boom! Chapter 2032. Whoosh! The sword qi shot into the sky, and it was vast and dazzling. The sun, moon, and stars could be faintly seen within it, and it was like a river of stars was charging up into the sky. Lin Sun, who was high in the sky, narrowed his eyes. What a strong sword qi! It wasn't exaggerated to say that even in the Tao discussion of Cloud State, Lin Sun hadn't seen any expert capable of executing such a shocking sword strike. There was no doubt that the one who made the move was a ruthless person. Lin Sun flicked his finger, and a dazzling Taishan sword qi slammed down, colliding with the opponent's sword qi. Boom! The void here was chaotic, and fragmented sword qi splattered like rain. Amidst the slightly surprised voice, an extremely imposing figure appeared. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his gaze was like a sword. His entire aura was like a celestial sword descending from the heavens, extremely swift and fierce. Looking at it from afar, it made one's eyes sting. Jin Di of the Cloud State? The man's eyes locked on Lin Sun in the void, and his eyes were sharp and frightening. Moon-like fire. Lin Sun could not help but frown as he recognized the identity of the man at once. His opponent was a freak who lived in seclusion and was extremely powerful. Before the Tao discussion began, he did not even take Mi Wuya, Ling Hongzhuang, Huangfu Xiaonong and the others seriously. Just like Ji Bai, this person was a terrifying character who didn't seem to be famous but was actually unfathomable. But Lin Sun didn't expect to meet him at this moment. Interesting. To be able to block the sword that I have been hiding for a long time, you can be considered a pretty good opponent. The corners of Yu Ruhua's mouth curled up into a cold arc. If you can take another strike from me, I will immediately move to the side and let you leave. As he spoke, Yuruhua grinned while a bright glow suddenly flashed in his eyes, and then he stretched out his hand and grabbed at space. Buzz! A meter-long strand of green sword chi condensed into form. It was dazzling like the sun, and it caused the nearby space to collapse apart as if it was unable to endure the might of this sword. What I cultivate is a 3-foot-long sword. With this 3-foot-long sword, I will be unobstructed in the great Tao. Yuruhua waved his sleeve. Go! The green sword chi soared into the sky like a rainbow, wanting to pierce through the sun and moon. At this moment, Lin Sun couldn't help but reveal a look of amazement. What a powerful sword Tao! It's perfect, vast, and condensed as one. It looks like a sword, but it actually contains the extremely exquisite power of the realm of Tao. Lin Sun didn't take it lightly and suddenly pointed out with his right fingertip. Whoosh! A wisp of a cold light floated up from the tip of his finger, and it was extremely dazzling, resplendent, and fierce to the extreme. In an instant, the heavens and the earth dimmed down, and it seemed as if only this wisp of light remained. Thorn of sharpness. The platinum Taoist body's innate magic skill could startle ghosts and deities with just one stab. Even a first-layer quasi-emperor would find it hard to dodge. Bang bang bang! There was a series of explosions as Yuruhua's green sword chi exploded inch by inch. It was like beautiful green glass shattering, causing a rain of light to scatter. In the blink of an eye, the 3-foot-long blade was completely turned into powder. Is that enough? Lin Sun didn't continue to attack. He withdrew the power from his fingertips and said calmly. Yuruhua was startled and seemed very surprised. He didn't expect that the top one in Yunzhou could resist his real power. He said thoughtfully, "It seems that not all the experts in these provinces are easy to deal with. Jindi, you can leave now." Lin Sun glanced at him and left directly. He really didn't intend to fight with Yuruhua, because even he wasn't sure that he could defeat Yuruhua in a short time. But I remind you that the next time we meet, I will use my sword again. If you can still resist it, I won't attack you again in the mysterious yellow secret realm. Yuruhua said loudly. Then we'll talk about it next time. Lin Sun didn't look back. Seeing Lin Sun's figure disappear in the distance, Yuruhua withdrew his gaze and thought that Lin Sun's combat strength could at least rank in the top 10 of the Holy King list of all heavens. But he didn't know how many such fierce characters there were in the mysterious yellow secret realm. While thinking, his figure also disappeared in a flash. Yuruhua is a descendant of the Heavenly Moon Battle Clan, one of the top 10 battle clans. 600 years ago, he already had the foundation to rank in the top 3 of the Holy King list of all heavens. In the outside world, Tai Shu Hong, the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Imperial Court, said slowly, "Originally, the Black-Yellow Imperial Court intended to rank him, but we were reminded by an old monster that he would rather fight for the first place than the second. If he is not qualified to be the first, his name should never be included in the Holy King list of all heavens." The Holy King list of all heavens was issued by the Black-Yellow Imperial Court. As soon as Tai Shu Hong spoke, the other emperors showed a strange expression. Yuruhua. This young man was really amazing. Jin Di can block this young man's sword. He is also not simple. Xia Xinglia said indifferently. Everyone was stunned and couldn't help laughing, but no one refuted, because they also saw the scene of Lin Sun blocking Yuruhua's sword. It's just the beginning. The really powerful people will not easily fight to the death when they meet. Let's wait and see. The longer it takes, the more exciting the selection will be. Some great emperors murmured. That's right. Only when the sand is washed away by the waves will the gold be revealed. Only in the end will we see who is the most dazzling among the peerless Saint Kings. I'm looking forward to Mi Wuya's performance. Jibai is also not bad. Haha, I'm more interested in some of the oddities such as Jin Di, the little guy from the Xian family, and some of the little monsters from other worlds in the universe. Yes, only by surprising and unexpected selections will people be interested. While the outside world was discussing, the atmosphere in the black-yellow mystery realm was intense, oppressive, and tense. In every area, there were fierce battles taking place at almost every moment. Most of them were sieges, but occasionally, there would be one-on-one battles. No matter who it was, they all used their trump cards and went all out. Cries of unwillingness, roars of anger, and roars of despair when they were eliminated, took place in different parts of the black-yellow mystery realm. Those who could participate in this discussion were all top-notch figures in the all heavens. They were the best among the peerless Saint Kings. Everyone had their own talents and trump cards. When they fought with all their might, the battles that took place were often extremely tragic. Even some peerless figures who were originally favored by others were defeated in the siege and eliminated. There were also some seemingly inconspicuous and unknown figures who burst out with amazing power and launched counterattacks, but there were only a few who managed to counterattack. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Their reputation was well-deserved. For example, Huangfu Xiaonong, Ling Hongzhuang, Zhu Feiyu, Yen Yuro, and Tu Qianjue, who were ranked in the top 10 of the All Heavens Saint King list, all had extremely eye-catching performances. Even if they were besieged alone, they could escape safely. Lin Sun's performance was not amazing, nor was it that nobody cared about him in the battle of so many outstanding figures. He had been moving forward cautiously, searching for the whereabouts of Golden Sky Mystic Moon. Along the way, he witnessed many bloody battles, but he did not participate in any of them. It was not that he did not want to snatch life talismans, but he knew very well that life talismans could be snatched later. But if Golden Sky Mystic Moon was eliminated, it was destined to be an irreparable regret. Moreover, this discussion had just begun. There were many participants, and it was common to meet them. But as time went on, after many eliminations, there would be fewer and fewer people. Those who could survive to the end were destined to be more and more terrifying. But at the same time, those who survived to the end probably had a large number of life talismans in their hands. This was also an opportunity for Lin Sun. At that time, if he eliminated an opponent, he could get more life talismans. Boom! 2 days later, Lin Sun, who was moving forward, suddenly heard an earth-shattering sound. There was a fight. And the scale was not small. In the past 2 days, he'd seen many similar incidents, so it wasn't strange to him. He'd originally intended to take a detour and avoid it, but he quickly stopped and frowned while a wisp of coldness flashed within his eyes that were like abysses. Without making a sound, he leaned over. In front of him was a barren field, where a battle was breaking out. There were 5 people besieging 2 people. Among the 5 people, the leader was dressed in a black robe with wide sleeve. His whole body was steaming with gray mist, and his breath was domineering. It was Wu Huang. The 4 people beside him were all strange faces that Lin Sun had never seen before. They were 2 men and 2 women, and their breath was strange and obscure. They were extremely fierce. Lin Sun, who had seen the means of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect, judged at a glance that the 4 people beside Wu Huang must also be from the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. This made him confused. There were so many people in the Emperor realm in the outside world. Couldn't they see that Wu Huang and the others were from the Dark World? But if they could see it, why did they let people from the Dark World participate in this discussion? There must be a secret hidden within. When Lin Sun saw the 2 opponents who were fighting fiercely with Wu Huang and the others, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. These 2 people were Ting Yichen and Mountain Gathering. Both of them were the top 10 in the discussion of Yunzhou, and they came to participate in the discussion with Lin Sun. According to Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Ting Yichen, and Mountain Gathering had already formed an alliance and decided to act together. But now, these 2 people were besieged by Wu Huang. Lin Sun did not need to think at all to know that Ting Yichen and Mountain Gathering had been tricked by Wu Huang. If it was other cultivators, Lin Sun could not be bothered to pay attention to them. But Ting Yichen and Mountain Gathering were from Yunzhou, just like him. The entire cultivation world of Yunzhou had high hopes for them. If they were tricked by Wu Huang and the others, it would be too infuriating. Boom. In the battlefield, Ting Yichen and Mountain Gathering were besieged and suppressed to the point that they could not even lift their heads. They seemed to be extremely strained, and they were already covered in injuries. Wu Huang stood proudly outside the battlefield with his hands behind his back. The other 4 people attacked together madly. Each of them was extremely powerful, and they attacked together, pressuring Ting Yichen and Mountain Gathering to the point that they could be defeated at any time. Don't resist stubbornly. This is the selection of the discussion. If I don't kill you, you will definitely be killed by others. Instead of that, why don't you give me your life talismans? Outside the battlefield, Wu Huang's expression was cold and indifferent. Chapter 2033. Both Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing felt that they were really in a desperate situation. Not to mention Wu Huang, the 4 people who were besieging them were so powerful that they felt desperate. When they heard Wu Huang's cold words, they were so angry that their eyes turned red, and they were completely crazy. Damn it! Let's fight with them. At this moment, Wu Huang, you are really shameless. A cold voice sounded between heaven and earth. Wu Huang and the 4 people who were besieging him all looked up at the same time. They saw a solitary and otherworldly figure teleporting over from the void. Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing trembled in their hearts and said incredulously, "Brother Jean." When they were in a desperate situation and were about to be eliminated, someone suddenly fell from the sky. It was like a ray of light that broke through the darkness, giving them a glimmer of hope in their desperate and angry hearts. They felt unprecedented ecstasy and excitement. Go on, I'll stop him. Wu Huang was stunned at first, but he immediately recovered his calmness and looked cold. His figure flashed and the mist rose. Like a demon from hell, he rushed to Lin Sun. Swish! 4 vertical eyes appeared in his pupils, and they shot out black, white, green, and violet divine lights that formed the strange and unfathomable 4 symbols life-slaying diagram. A chain that flowed with a bloody aura appeared in his palm, and it lashed out fiercely. In the past, as the messenger of the emperor, Wu Huang was arrogant and conceited. But in the Tao discussion of Yunzhou, he was defeated by Lin Sun and was trampled miserably, which was regarded as a great shame. Now, seeing Lin Sun intervening in his affairs, new and old hatred surged in his heart. As soon as he attacked, it was as if he was desperate, with monstrous power. Do you really think you can stop me? Lin Sun sneered, and suddenly hundreds of millions of misty sword chi swept out from his body, blazing and resplendent. 10-direction sword rain. But this time, it was performed by the fiercest and most chilling platinum Taoist body. The killing power was completely different from the past. Boom! The sky was covered by the sword rain, and the void was torn into countless cracks. Although Wu Huang's attack was terrible, it was smashed by countless sword chi in a flash. He came quickly, but he left even faster. He was struck by a dense wave of sword chi and sent flying. His clothes were torn to shreds, and bloody sword marks appeared on his body. Just one strike and he was heavily injured. The 4 people who were about to continue attacking Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing froze, and an expression of shock appeared on their faces. How could an emperor's envoy like Wu Huang be so weak? Even Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing were speechless. They had personally witnessed the intense battle between Wu Huang and Lin Sun during the Yunzhou Dao discussion. At that time, even though Wu Huang was defeated, he didn't lose so quickly. He couldn't even block a single move. This was too inconceivable. How can you be so powerful? Wu Huang was shocked and furious. He couldn't believe that his opponent was already so terrifying in such a short period of time. He didn't know that Lin Sun hadn't exerted his full strength in the Dao discussion of Cloud State. Within half a year after the end of the Dao discussion of Cloud State, Lin Sun made a breakthrough in his cultivation and leaped into the late stage of Peerless Saint King. His Tao field was also almost perfected. His battle prowess was completely different from before. In order to save Ting Yichen and Guishan Xing, Lin Sun didn't hold back at all. At the Tao discussion of Cloud State, you could use the Emperor Treasure and the strange secret treasure that targets the power of the Divine Soul. But in this mysterious yellow secret realm, you won't have such a chance anymore. As Lin Sun spoke, he rushed forward, and his killing intent was firmly locked on Wu Huang. And I won't give you another chance. Boom! Endless sword rain swept out, and each Taishan sword chi was branded with the mysterious power of law. It condensed into a dense sword intent and covered Lin Sun. The scene could be described as covering the sky and the sun. Wu Huang's expression changed, and he turned to flee. In the past half a year, his strength had also made a breakthrough. He thought he had a chance to avenge himself, but the blow just now made him realize that Jean Di's power was far beyond his imagination. As I said, I won't give you any chance this time. Amidst his indifferent voice, boundless sword chi suddenly flashed and transformed into a peerlessly ghastly sword formation that locked down this area, causing it to seem like a prison of the sword. This was a marvelous technique in the Taishan sword scripture, Sword's Cage. Open! Wu Huang roared up to the sky, and his whole body was steaming with a surging gray mist. He turned into a ferocious bird and flapped his wings to fly high. This was his real body, and it was also his strongest technique. Layers of gray light and shadow emerged between his wings, and it was like layers of demonic territory had descended into the world. It was strange and terrifying. However, under the suppression of the sword's cage, the layers of light and shadow were shattered like bubbles and collapsed with a bang. Under the slash of the sword chi, Wu Huang's body was instantly covered with countless sword marks that were so deep that bones could be seen, and blood flowed out like a waterfall. No! Wu Huang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, but along with a wave of void fluctuation, he was taken away and completely eliminated. Before he left, his eyes were full of deep-rooted hatred and unwillingness. At last, a pile of life charms fell from the place where he disappeared. There were as many as 13 pieces, and Lin Sun grabbed them in his hand. Then, Lin Sun looked at the 4 companions of Wu Huang. Go! These people had already realized that the situation was not good. Especially when they saw Wu Huang's miserable condition, they were so frightened that they all chose to escape at the same time. Chop! With a swish, the broken sword swept out. At the same time, Lin Sun's figure flashed and he chased after another person. Ting Yichen and Green Mountain Xing would not miss such a good opportunity, so they also rushed up at the same time. A moment later, the 4 overmatches from the Divine Sunshine Ancient sect were defeated and eliminated one after another. There were only 8 pieces of life charms left in the field, far less than the number of life charms owned by Wu Huang alone. It could also be seen that in the Divine Sunshine Ancient sect, the status of these 4 people should be far lower than Wu Huang, the Emperor's messenger. Thank you for your help, Brother Jean. Ting Yichen and Green Mountain Xing stepped forward and thanked Lin Sun gratefully. They did not have much friendship with Lin Sun, but this time it was Lin Sun who saved them. This surprised them and made them even more grateful. After all, they had allied with Wu Huang before, but Wu Huang had tricked them. How could they not be grateful for Lin Sun's life-saving grace? We are all from Cloud State. It's natural for us to help each other. Lin Sun smiled. As he was about to say something, he suddenly turned his head and looked into the distance. At the same time, a round of applause sounded. In the distance, a group of figures appeared out of thin air. The leader was a man in plain clothes. He had a handsome face and gentle eyes. He had long silver hair and a gentle and elegant temperament. Tu Qianjue, the core heir of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court, ranked 9th on the Holy King list. Behind him followed 7 or 8 men and women, all core heirs of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court. Each of them had a powerful aura that pierced through the sky like a group of gods. Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing both changed their expressions and felt bitter in their mouth. He had just averted danger and defeated Wu Huang and the others, but a group of even more terrifying characters immediately jumped out. Wasn't this a little too unlucky? Only Lin Sun remained calm. In the past 2 days, he had seen many similar things. Some people seemed to have just defeated their opponents and got some life talismans with great difficulty. But before they had time to be happy, another opponent came out and took advantage of the situation. Things like the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, were common in this mysterious yellow secret realm. They happened all the time, but this time, he bumped into them himself. Who would have thought that the top one in Cloud State would have such powerful combat power? In my opinion, it was not an accident that Kong Zhao was injured by you outside the gate of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court that day. Tu Qianjue's voice was clear and bright, like a spring breeze. When they came, their chi was firmly locked on Lin Sun and others. It seemed that they hadn't made a move yet, but in fact, a siege battle was about to break out. Do you think you are stronger than Kong Zhao by jumping out now? Lin Sun looked calm. No, I just have more people. However, even if I can't kill you this time, I can definitely get some life talismans. Tu Qianjue smiled. Of course, if I really fight with my life, I have to weigh the price I have to pay. Lin Sun was a little surprised and said, So what are you going to do? Tu Qianjue thought for a moment and said seriously, Hand over the life talismans you just got, and we can turn hostility into friendship. You're so optimistic. Lin Sun laughed. Did this guy really think that he could defeat him with a group of strong practitioners of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court? Tu Qianjue said disapprovingly, It's an idea. If you don't think well, do you want to think badly? I also have a bold idea. I don't know if you want to hear it? Lin Sun smiled brightly. I'm all ears. Tu Qianjue said. You will definitely not be able to bear the result of this battle. Lin Sun said seriously. Tu Qianjue narrowed his eyes slightly and couldn't help feeling a little surprised. Didn't this guy really see that the situation was extremely unfavorable for him? But why was he still so confident? Let's go. While he was thinking, Lin Sun had already moved away with Ting Yichen and Hengshan Xing without hesitation. Tu Qianjue was stunned and said, I didn't expect that you, Jin Di, are also dishonest. But, where can you escape to when I, Tu Qianjue, am staring at you? Whoosh. The next moment, they all chased after them. One of them waved his hand and took out a piece of animal skin with illusory luster, covering Tu Qianjue and others. When they moved in the void, their speed was incredibly fast. Animal skin of the void. It was a boundlessly miraculous treasure that was extremely rare. Every single piece of it could be said to be priceless. Although it wasn't an emperor artifact, its most powerful use was that it could ignore the restraints of the laws of the void when it was teleporting. Chapter 2034. Brother Jean, they're catching up with us. Ting Yichen's face changed dramatically as he sensed a strong spiritual awareness locking on him from behind. He felt like there was a thorn in his back. Brother Jean saved us this time. We can't let you suffer with us again. Brother Jean, you go first. We'll stop the enemies for you. Gui Shanxing gritted his teeth and said. Tu Qianjue alone was enough to make people feel desperate. Now, Tu Qianjue was not alone, but a group of core figures of Universe Taoism court. Moreover, they were catching up with them. How could they fight? Gui Shanxing turned around and was about to fight with his life, but Lin Sun grabbed him and dragged him back. I saved you, not to let you die again. Lin Sun frowned and said, If you really want to thank me, run with me. Run. Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing felt sad when they heard Lin Sun's words. If it weren't for them, Brother Jean wouldn't have been treated like this. Well, no matter what, we'll fight for a chance for Brother Jean at all costs when it's a matter of life and death. Yes. Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing looked determined. Seeing this, A faint smile appeared on Lin Sun's lip. He didn't save them in vain. It was enough to have such thoughts. Jin Duyi, you swore earlier that we wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if we were to fight. Why are you running now? Tu Qianjue's leisurely laughter came from far behind. I'm just bluffing. Senior brother, there's no need to talk to this person. When they are eliminated, they will know how big the gap is between us and them. The men and women of Universe Taoism Court all showed disdain and coldness. Lin Sun ignored them and moved with all his strength. Along the way, he saw some strong figures, but when they saw the aggressive Tu Qianjue and others, they all changed their expressions and avoided them. That seems to be Jin Duyi? This guy is so unlucky. I thought Kong Zhao would be the first to attack him. I didn't expect that even Tu Qianjue would target him. Should we catch up with them? Stupid Tu Qianjue and his team are the prey. How can we take advantage of them? All kinds of comments sounded on the way of escape. Almost all of them were pessimistic about Lin Sun and his companions. This made Ting Yichen and Lin Sun feel more and more guilty. They thought that if Lin Sun hadn't saved them, they wouldn't have encountered such a disaster. At this time, Tu Qianjue and the others were getting closer and closer. The situation was getting dangerous. Jindi, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the life talisman and I promise I won't make things difficult for you. Tu Qianjue's voice had already become somewhat cold. No matter how good his temper was, he did not like opponents who were stubborn and did not know what was good for them. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to the people around him. Get ready. Once we make our move, we must crush them in one fell swoop with the might of a thunderbolt. The other core successors of the Qiankuan Dao court nodded in unison, and killing intent flashed in their eyes. Opportunity? At this moment Lin Sun, who was fleeing ahead, suddenly turned around with a playful look in his eyes. Do you really think I'm running away because of fear? Tu Qianjue frowned and waved his hand. They suddenly stopped, and the distance between them and Lin was less than 3 kilometers. Brother Jin, if you're not sure, why do you flee all the way? Tu Qianjue's eyes were deep. He had never underestimated Lin Sun. From Lin Sun injuring Kong Zhao outside the gate of the black-yellow Taoist court to eliminating Wu Huang with absolute crushing power just now, Tu Qianjue did not dare to underestimate his strength at all. Therefore, whether at the beginning or now, Tu Qianjue had always been very restrained when dealing with Lin Sun. If it were another strong opponent, he would not talk nonsense and would have taken action at the first time. Lin Sun smiled and said, I'm just inviting you to enter the trap. I intend to catch a turtle in the trap. Catch a turtle in the trap? Tu Qianjue was stunned. He spread his spiritual awareness in all directions. This was a canyon. There were countless canyons like this in the black-yellow secret realm, and there was nothing special about it. But in an instant Tu Qianjue seemed to realize something. His face changed slightly and he shouted, Retreat! But it was a step too late. As Lin Sun waved his sleeve, the world suddenly changed with this canyon as the center. The day fell into the eternal night, the mountains and rivers turned into the color of blood, and countless tide-like Taoist patterns suddenly emerged, turning into infinite terrible formation power. Boom! In this formation, thunder and lightning roared, wind and clouds surged, there was endless divine light sweeping, there was a roar of Taoist sound, and sometimes there were roars of gods and demons crying blood. It was like a hellish purgatory. Damn it! We've been tricked! This bastard has planned this for a long time. We've all been tricked. Those core successors of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court were all shocked and angry. It's just a big formation. Can it trap us? Don't talk nonsense, break the formation first, and then kill the despicable Jin Duyi. Tu Qianjue took a deep breath and calmed down in an instant. His state of mind was terrifyingly strong. Boom! Without hesitation, they attacked fiercely, exerting all kinds of Taoist magic and treasures, and bombarding the formation with all their strength. Outside the formation, Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing were both stunned by the reversal in front of them. Brother Jean, it turns out that you have a backup plan. Unexpectedly, Brother Jean, you are a Taoist tattooist. Only then did they realize why Lin Sun was so calm all the way, and they both felt a burst of excitement and joy. Lin Sun said with a smile, "Watch me catch a turtle in a jar." He frequently made incantations with his palms, and the big formation that covered the heaven and earth rumbled and operated, reflecting an amazing scene. The terrible torrent of power evolved into sword chi, saber light, thunder, and flame, and started a massacre in the big formation. Tu Qianjue and others who were trapped in it suddenly felt the pressure doubled, and the place was covered by the terrible power of the formation in all directions. Kill! 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 Tu Qianjue and others all attacked with all their strength. It had to be said that the power of their group could be regarded as the top in the world. Each of them was at the peak of the Saint King realm. If it was an ordinary Taoist forbidden formation, it would be impossible to trap them. However, Lin's Taoist forbidden formation was not ordinary. With the rise of his cultivation over the years, the power of the Taoist forbidden formation he could set up was getting stronger and stronger. It was no exaggeration to say that from the moment he set up this formation, Lin soon treated it as a way out for himself. How could its power be weak? Just for a moment. A scream of pain resounded in the big formation. A successor of the Universe Taoist court was caught off guard and was swept by a sword chi that suddenly swept out from under his feet, almost cutting him in half at the waist. On the verge of death, he was moved out of the mysterious yellow secret realm and eliminated. Junior brother Nyo. Damn it! Others seemed to be stimulated, and their eyes turned red. Even Tu Qianjue's face became gloomy, and his eyes were as cold as ice, surging with a terrible tide of divine light. Before, he was handsome, gentle, and calm, with a kind of romantic and elegant demeanor. But now, both his expression and aura were extremely cold. He had been very careful all the way, but he still didn't expect that he would be led by the nose all the way. At the thought that such a scene would be clearly seen by those emperors outside, he felt an unspeakable sense of shame and indignation. No. Another cry filled with unwillingness rang out. Another descendant of the Heaven and Earth Tao court was eliminated. This person was in an even more miserable state. He was struck by a bolt of lightning until he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. His flesh and blood had all turned into mush. Originally, he could still struggle a little, but who would have thought that after being struck by lightning, there would be a bolt of sword chi that pierced his throat. This scene made Tu Qianjue unable to control his anger. His voice was like thunder. Jean Dui, you are too despicable. When I break the formation, I will pay you back tenfold. Outside the big formation, Lin Sun, who was controlling the formation with all his strength, couldn't help laughing. Despicable? What about when you bullied me and chased me all the way? After a pause he continued, Tu Qianjue, if you want me to respect you, don't complain. Break the formation first and then say something harsh. Boom. As soon as he finished his words, Lin Sun exerted the power of the formation to the extreme. For a time, the big formation was filled with chilly wind and evil spirit, mixed with bursts of curses. The successors of the Universe Taoist court were flustered. They were exasperated, shocked, and angry. However, no matter how they struggled and fought, it was useless. The power of the formation could trap a quasi-emperor to death. It was already extremely rare that they could last until now. Damn it! I will definitely not let you off! Save me! In the following time, successors of the Universe Taoist court were eliminated one after another. Even if Tu Qianjue tried his best to save them, he couldn't save them. Because at this moment, he was also injured. Although it wasn't serious, it made him look extremely disheveled. This was the terror of the Tao pattern forbidden formation. Once trapped inside, It was difficult to break the formation with brute force unless one also had the same level of attainment in Tao patterns. Outside the big formation, Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing were dumbfounded. A big formation trapped a group of core experts of the Universe Taoist court, including Tu Qianjue. This was simply like an impossible thing. It was full of incredulity. This also made them look at Lin Sun differently. In the past, they didn't know that Lin Sun's attainment in the Tao of spiritual tattoos was so terrifying. At this moment, on the top of the main peak of the Universe Taoist court, Tai Shu Hong, Xia Xinglia, and other Emperor Realm experts were also attracted by the scene of catching a turtle in a jar. One careless move and the whole game is lost. If it was a head-on battle, Tu Qianjue might not be a match for Jin Di, but he was tricked like this, an Emperor Realm expert sighed. Jin Di's Tao pattern method is extremely mysterious. Can you see the origin of this boy's master? An important figure muttered. All the Emperor Realm experts were also puzzled. There was no lack of Tao pattern grandmasters with extraordinary attainment in the Tao of spiritual tattoos, but each of them had a master and could be identified. But only the Tao pattern method used by Jin Di was something that the Emperor Realm experts couldn't see through. This was too strange. Chapter 2035. The martial emperors present were all from the 6 Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and other colossal forces. Each of them had lived for countless years and had seen all kinds of Taoist runes in the heavens. But now, they could not even recognize a young man's Tao. This, without a doubt, was shocking. If Array Emperor Deer was still alive, he would definitely recognize this inheritance. Xia Hanglai suddenly spoke. Just these words alone caused the atmosphere in the surroundings to fall silent, and the expressions of many great figures became unnatural. Array Emperor Deer, a legendary figure who had yet to step into the Emperor realm but was revered as an emperor because of his Tao. In the ancient times, during the Battle of the Emperors, Array Emperor Deer once laid down the lifeless killing Array and trapped 13 emperors. In the end, 5 emperors were killed and the other 8 emperors were heavily injured. At that time, Array Emperor Lu was only at the Boundary Emperor realm. Regrettably, perhaps due to the limitations of his cultivation, Array Emperor Deer's energy was exhausted at the last moment. He was then ambushed and the lifeless killing array that was stained with the blood of an emperor was destroyed. After this battle, Array Emperor Deer's life and death were unknown. However, everyone saw him as a god and believed that his array skills were comparable to an emperor's. Therefore, he was revered as Array Emperor Deer. He was a legend who had yet to become an emperor, but was publicly recognized as having a path to the Emperor realm on the path of Tao patterns. Just like an uncrowned emperor. On the other hand, the lifeless slaughter formation that he'd set up was taken to be the 9th formation in the universe since ancient times until now. The grand formations that were ranked before the lifeless slaughter formation were all supreme formations that belonged to the Emperor realm or even the Ancestor realm. And the lifeless killing array that Array Emperor Lu, with his quasi-emperor cultivation, was able to make it into this ranking was already a feat that would shock the world. However, this piece of the past had been forgotten by most people through the boundless passage of time. However, it was like an unforgettable mark to the great figures at the Emperor realm, and they were utterly unable to forget it. Because many of the emperors that Array Emperor Deer fought back then were from the 6 Tao courts and the 10 battle clans. This was why when Xia Hanglai, the Demon Sword Emperor, mentioned this name, some of the emperor's expressions turned unnatural. It's just a battle between juniors. What's the point of mentioning Array Emperor Lu? The Fire Spirit Empress of the Qiankuan Tao court spoke. Her body was surrounded by Emperor Realm laws that looked like fire fish, and her face was filled with coldness. At this moment, Tu Qianjue and the other successors of the Universe Tao court were trapped by a grand formation, causing her to feel depressed. Everyone tactfully stopped talking about this matter. Everyone knew that Tu Qianjue was one of the core members of the Heaven and Earth Tao court. The Fire Spirit Empress thought highly of him, believing that he would definitely be able to stand out and participate in the competition for the ancient immortal forbidden area. But now, there was a possibility that Tu Qianjue would be eliminated. How could the Fire Spirit Empress be in a good mood? Only Xia Xinglie sneered and said, "This is called asking for it. You thought you could bully the few with numbers, but who would have thought that you would suffer such a huge setback? Jin Duyi, on the other hand, is worthy of being the person that I have high hopes for. He vaguely has some of the elegance that I had in the past." His words made everyone look at each other in dismay. The Fire Spirit Empress' eyes flashed and she sneered, "Xia Xinglie, what do you mean by that?" Xia Xinglie raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "What? You don't allow me to comment on the competition between the younger generation? If you're not convinced, why don't we have a spar?" The Fire Spirit Empress glared angrily. Tai Shu Hong quickly said, "You two, it's just a sparring session. There's no need to get angry." Xia Xinglie smiled and said, "It's indeed not worth it. But I'll say it again. If you're not convinced, I promise to accompany you to the end." His words were calm and composed, but they were extremely domineering. One should know that the Fire Spirit Empress was also a supreme being that shook the universe. Behind her stood the Heaven and Earth Tao Court. In the primordial world, who dared to disrespect her? But Xia Xinglie dared. This was the extreme demon Sword Emperor. In all these years, whether it was the 6 Tao Courts or the 10 war clans, he had never been afraid of anyone. In the end, the Fire Spirit Empress suppressed the anger in her heart and didn't continue to argue. She also knew Xia Xinglie's nature. He was an old thorn that had lived for countless years. Hey, this kid is ruthless enough. He actually killed his way into the formation. Suddenly, an Emperor Realm cultivator said in surprise. Everyone's attention was also attracted by him. In the mysterious yellow secret realm, inside the canyon formation. Quick, although this formation is amazing, its power is on the verge of exhaustion. We only need a spurt of energy to destroy it. Tu Qianjue's spirit was lifted as he noticed the changes in the formation. At this time, 4 of the 8 people who followed him had been eliminated. Each of them was the core descendant of the Heaven and Earth Tao Court. The loss was not small. When we get out, we must teach Jin Duyi a lesson. This damn thing must pay for this. The remaining people gnashed their teeth in hatred, each of them spitting out ruthless words. There's no need to wait until we get out. We can deal with it now. Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded, and Lin Sun's figure suddenly appeared in the formation. Boom! Before the voice died away, he had already rushed out. The broken blade swept out and attacked a tall man in golden armor at an incredible speed. No one had expected that at the critical moment of breaking the formation, Lin Sun would take the initiative to attack and attack so swiftly. Caught off guard, the man in golden armor had no chance to dodge and could only face it head-on. "Get lost!" He roared furiously, and the image of a dragon and tiger rose around him. The golden hammer in his hand rumbled as it smashed out fiercely. Peerless golden light was released along with it. The scene was like a golden sun smashing down, peerless and peerless. Clang! The broken blade and the giant hammer collided, causing a deafening sound and divine radiance to burst out. The golden hammer was actually split into 2 by the broken blade. The broken blade didn't lose momentum and slashed directly towards the man in golden armor. The peerless sharpness was so dazzling that the man in golden armor couldn't open his eyes, and great terror surged in his heart. He couldn't even resist one move? How could this guy be so powerful? When these thoughts had just appeared in his mind, the man in golden armor had been eliminated. The series of actions ended in the blink of an eye. Seeing what had happened to the man in golden armor caused the others to be unable to help him in time, and they all felt cold all over. Junior brother Chu. Tu Qianjue was completely angry. His long hair was flying and his eyes were red. This was the fifth one who had been eliminated, and Tu Qianjue was unable to resolve it. Go to hell. With a roar, Tu Qianjue exerted all his strength. A purple flying sword swept up and evolved into a sword field. In the sword field, the universe was vast, purple qi came from the east, and the sun was shining brightly. There were endless chanting sounds like a sacred kingdom. The field of Tao, forbidden sword field. Boom. However, before the blow touched Lin Sun, it was blocked by the power of the formation. Lin Sun smiled and pointed to the place where he was. Before this formation is broken, I'm the master. As he spoke, his figure flickered like an illusory shadow, and suddenly appeared in front of a woman in yellow. He pointed his fingertip lightly. It was an understatement. The woman in yellow was directly moved out of the Xianhuang secret realm with a scream of horror. Clatter! When the woman in yellow was eliminated, countless Taishan sword qi flowed out of Lin Sun's body, crystal clear and resplendent. At this moment, Lin Sun was really like a master. Anyone who was targeted by him would end the battle in an instant. One by one, his opponents were defeated and eliminated. In less than 5 seconds, except for Tu Qianjue, all the others in the field were eliminated one after another. Jin Dui, I swear to kill you. Tu Qianjue was about to go mad with anger. His hair was disheveled, and he was extremely crazy. This was a hunting operation, and he was full of confidence, but who would have thought that the appearance of a large formation changed everything? This made his heart bleed. Boom! With Tu Qianjue's bombardment, the Taoist forbidden formation, which had been unable to hold on, was completely destroyed at this moment. This made Lin Sun stunned, and then he immediately smiled. It doesn't matter if the formation is gone. The turtle that should be caught is doomed. In his words, he regarded Tu Qianjue as a turtle. This irritated Tu Qianjue so much that his hair stood on end. He roared, "Go to hell!" Whoosh! The forbidden sword domain expanded and turned into a vast world. The purple air was steaming, the sun was shining alone, and the mountains, rivers, and the universe were all filled with mighty sword qi. Lin Sun did not despise Tu Qianjue. Since Tu Qianjue could rank 9th on the Holy King list, his combat power was vividly reflected at this moment. Even if it was Wu Huang in comparison, he was a lot inferior. Moreover, at this moment Tu Qianjue was almost crazy. He seemed to be desperate, and the power he released made Lin Sun exclaim, "Strong! Incredibly strong!" But it was not enough to threaten him. Lin Sun took a deep breath, and his body shone brilliantly. Hundreds of millions of misty sword qi gathered at his fingertips and turned into a condensed sword intent. At this moment, the world was dim, and only a touch of sword intent shone brightly. The sting of sharpness. Different from when he defeated Wu Huang, Lin Sun didn't hold back this time. It was the first time for him to display the talent of the platinum Taoist body. Ting Yi Chen and Gui Shanxing, who were standing outside, felt a stabbing pain in their eyes, hearts, and divine souls. All they could sense was the white sword qi, and they could not help but be shocked. What kind of power was this? Then, a roar of collision sounded, and the whole canyon trembled. The nearby void was torn like cloth, and countless cracks appeared. The terrifying turbulence of energy flooded the entire area. This was too terrifying. At this moment, all the Emperor Realm figures in the outside world could not help but be shocked. Among the top holy kings, this attack could be regarded as unprecedented and extremely rare. Xia Xinglia narrowed his eyes, and the wine cup that he had picked up paused. The fire spirit empress leaned forward, and the light in her eyes was steaming. She stared fixedly. When the smoke and dust dispersed, the vicinity of the canyon was already a scene of devastation, as if it had been trampled by an ancient wild beast. The ground was cracked, the rocks were shattered, and the vegetation was crushed. It was a scene of devastation. In the field, 2 figures stood. One was bathed in blood, his hair was disheveled, and his face was pale and transparent. There was blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and there was a shocking bloody hole on his right shoulder. One was dressed neatly, without a speck of dust, just like before. The former was Tu Qianjue. The latter, it was Lin Sun. Chapter 2036. Witnessing this scene, all the emperors showed a touch of surprise. This time, Tu Qianjue was not bound by the power of the formation, and he was still attacking desperately, but he was seriously injured in the head-on collision. In contrast, Jin Di, who was unscathed, was particularly eye-catching. Some emperors glanced at the Fire Empress and found that the latter was in a bad mood with a gloomy expression on her face. On the other hand, Xia Xinglie raised his glass again and drank it up happily. The joy of life should be revealed to the world. This, Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing were also stunned. Tu Qianjue was ranked 9th on the Holy King list, but he was still no match for Jin Di? It turns out that I underestimated you from the beginning. Who would have thought that there would be such a hidden guy like you in a place like Yunzhou? Tu Qianjue's expression was uncertain. He did suffer a serious injury, but he was not nervous. This only proved that he still had a trump card. Lin Sun also saw this. He stepped forward and said calmly, "I can see that you still have something to rely on. If you don't use it now, I'm afraid you won't have a chance." Tu Qianjue said expressionlessly, "You can have a try." At this moment, he looked extremely calm. However, Lin Sun didn't care about this. In this black-yellow secret realm, there had long been a rule that one could not use emperor treasures or taboo external forces. In this way, there was almost no means that could make Lin Sun afraid of it. Whether Tu Qianjue really had a terrifying trump card or was bluffing, Lin Sun would not stop here. But just when Lin Sun was about to make a move, he suddenly stopped. At the same time, a sweet and melodious voice came from afar, like the sound of nature. "Brother Jin, why are you so ruthless?" A graceful and slender figure appeared, surrounded by mist and rain, like a dream. Her black hair was tied up in a bun, revealing a fresh and refined face. Soft Rain. She ranked 7th on the Holy King list, the core successor of the black-yellow sanctum, and a world-famous gorgeous woman. There were countless stories about her. The selection of the Tao discussion is a competition for supremacy. How can it be called ruthlessness? Lin Sun stopped and looked indifferent. Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing felt as if they were facing a great enemy, and their hair stood on end. They didn't expect that a world-renowned and peerless demon would appear at this critical moment. Brother Jin is right. However, since I arrived in time, what do you think the chances of winning are if we continue to fight? Soft Mist's figure fluttered as she landed on the stage. A refreshing fragrance wafted through the air. She was extraordinarily graceful and had an otherworldly beauty. "Miss Euro, I'll have to trouble you this time." Tu Qianjue's expression was complicated. He had always been a proud and unyielding person. Unless he had no other choice, he would never hope for others to come and help him. Lin Sun, who had stopped, smiled and stepped forward again. "You asked me what my chances of winning are. I thought about it. At the very least, I have some confidence in dealing with the two of you." His words were filled with disdain. Tu Qianjue and Yen Euro stared blankly, as if they couldn't believe it. "Looks like Brother Jin is not willing to give up just like this. You want to give it your all." Soft Mist's eyes were ethereal and her voice was clear. There was no emotion in her voice, but the rippling power of the great way permeated her body. He doesn't care about us at all." Tu Qianjue's expression was ugly. But at this moment, Lin Sun stopped again and turned his head to look at Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing. He shouted, "Watch out!" The two reacted quickly. Before Lin Sun's voice died away, they instinctively dodged. However, it was too late. Boom! A black shadow of a sword fell from the sky like a black curtain. The black sword Qi shone with a sharp and dazzling light as it whistled down. The sword Qi rumbled like the water of the Milky Way. It crushed the void and drowned Ting Yichen and Gui Shanxing. "No! Brother Jin, run!" In the blink of an eye, the two were eliminated. Before being eliminated, Gui Shanxing was worried about Lin Sun's safety and shouted anxiously. Lin Sun's expression suddenly became cold when he saw this scene but didn't have time to rescue Gui Shanxing. His black eyes were as deep as the abyss, and boiling killing intent surged. The companions he saved were now attacked and eliminated under his eyes. This made Lin Sun feel unspeakable shame and anger. When the black shadow of the sword dissipated, a man with a long sword on his back and a flagon in his open clothes appeared in the field. He looked rough and wild. Zhu Feiyu. He ranked 8th on the Holy King list and the core descendant of the demon court. Brother Jean, you look angry. Actually, you don't have to be angry. You just said that this is just a selection of Tao. It's just a competition. Zhu Feiyu smiled wantonly. What's more, they are just eliminated. Their lives are not in danger. Brother Jean, don't be angry. His words were full of ridicule and ridicule. As he spoke, he exchanged a look with Tu Qianjue and Yen Yuro. The next moment, they shrouded Lin Sun with their qi from different directions. The atmosphere instantly became extremely solemn. There were many variables in this chase. First, Lin Sun defeated Wu Huang and the others. Then, Tu Qianjue and the others appeared and chased after Lin Sun. But in the end, Tu Qianjue and the others were trapped and suffered heavy losses. Who would have thought that everything would be settled? Who would have thought that Yen Yuro and Zhu Feiyu would appear one after another and change the situation again? At this moment, Lin Sun was targeted by 3 ruthless characters ranked in the top 10 of the Holy King list, and the situation was reversed. This scene also attracted the attention of the Emperor Realm experts in the outside world. Wow, I didn't expect the young people to be so cunning. The 3 little guys from the 3 major Tao courts have already secretly formed an alliance. When did the relationship between the descendants of the 3 major Tao courts become so good? Xia Xinglia's tone was full of sarcasm. In the Xianwang mystery realm, it was very common for people to work together. However, it was very rare for people like Tu Qianjue, Yen Yuro, and Zhu Feiyu, who were all peerless geniuses in the top 10 of the All-Heaven King Saint Board, to form an alliance. Tai Shu Hong, the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Secret Realm, smiled bitterly. How can we meddle in the affairs of the disciples? Brother Xia, you think too much. Burning Sky Demon Emperor of the Demon Court said coldly, Xia Xinglia, the rules do not say that we are not allowed to act together. His figure was thin, his eye sockets sunken, and his eyes were as frightening as an eagle's. Wearing a black robe, he sat there casually like the 9th Heaven Demon Lord. Xia Xinglia, who is Jin Di to you? Why do you protect him? The Fire Spirit Empress could not help but ask. I don't like him. Can't I? Xia Xinglia asked. Seeing that they were about to argue again, Tai Shu Hong quickly mediated. Everyone, as long as there is no violation of the rules, we can let it go. We should not hurt the harmony because of this. Tai Shu Hong felt a headache coming on. Emperors possessed the power to reverse the universe. Each of them had the power to illuminate the heavens. None of them was easy to get along with. At the same time, in the Black-Yellow Secret Realm, perceiving the hostility of Tu Qianjue, Yen Yuro, and Zhu Feiyu, Lin Sun said after a moment of silence, We'll settle this account later. After that, he turned around and left. Ha, if we let you go this time, we will lose face. Zhu Feiyu couldn't help laughing. Jin Di thought too highly of himself. How could he leave like this after leaving a harsh remark? No way. As he spoke, his figure flashed and disappeared out of thin air. The next moment, countless heavy black sword qi, like the night curtain, rumbled and crushed the void, pressing down on Lin Sun. The dark sword qi, as heavy as a holy mountain, flowed with obscure and terrible Taoist light. It gathered together in a dense manner, as if it was going to destroy the mountains and rivers and destroy the universe. Without looking at it, Lin Sun raised his fist and punched. The fist force was like a furnace, like an abyss, but not an abyss. With incredible power, It engulfed all the black sword chi in the sky. Boom! The nearby void shook and became chaotic. Zhu Feiyu staggered out of the void and his face changed slightly. Sure enough, this fellow wasn't just an ordinary kind of scary. Condense. A hazy and dreamy misty rain appeared in front of Lin Sun and condensed into an ink painting of misty rain. Then, it suddenly folded up. Misty rain of lands. This was Yen Yuro's Tao field. It seemed poetic and picturesque, but in fact, it was all-encompassing and full of unimaginable killing power. Dong. Without looking at it, Lin Sun punched again. The misty rain painting had just condensed into shape when it burst into pieces. Yen Yuro's starry eyes widened in surprise. She just wanted to stop Lin Sun and make him stay. Who would have thought that her means didn't work at all? When she and Zhu Feiyu were about to attack again, Lin Sun's figure had already disappeared without a trace. It was too late to chase after him. Tu Qianjue, who was seriously injured, didn't make a move. In his current state, it was too late for him to do anything. When he witnessed this scene, his face became extremely gloomy. The three of them had joined forces, but still failed to make him stay. If it were one-on-one, I'm afraid we wouldn't be his match. This guy isn't much inferior to those hidden geniuses like Yu Ruhua and Ji Bai. Zhu Feiyu's expression was solemn. Originally, we secretly formed an alliance to fight against people like Yu Ruhua, Ji Bai, and Mi Wuya. But now, it seems that Jin Di will be added to the list. Yen Yuro's expression was also unusually solemn. Jin Di. He was just a character from Yunzhou, but he possessed unimaginable fighting power. This was enough to make anyone take him seriously. This guy already bears a grudge against us. He definitely won't let it go in the coming days. Tu Qianjue took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the hatred in his heart. Then, he said in a gloomy voice, "What do the two of you think we should do next? If you don't kill a snake, you'll be harmed instead. We must fight for the life talisman, but we must also eliminate the threat that should be eliminated. Otherwise, who knows how many more problems will arise." Zhu Feiyu's eyes darkened. "In my opinion, we should gather all the forces we can and kick this guy out of the game.